Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Josh, and I want to personally welcome you to the KeepItTechie Linux Plus certification course. So whether you're brand new to Linux or looking to get certified, this course is all about helping you gain real-world skills and confidence in using Linux. Now, over the next few videos, we're going to walk through everything you need to know to not only pass the CompTIA Linux Plus exam, but to actually understand and use Linux like a professional. And I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Now, I've designed this course with hands-on practice and practical explanations to make sure it sticks. Now, you might have the question, who is this course for? Well, this course is for anybody ready to grow. Maybe you're transitioning into tech, or you're already working in IT and want to move into a system admin or cybersecurity, maybe DevOps role. Or maybe you've been curious about Linux and you don't know where to start. Either way, I got you. I created this with folks like you in mind. People who want to build real transferable skills. You don't need to be a command line expert. You just need the desire to learn and a little bit of hustle. And that's all. Now, just to cover what you'll learn in this course, we'll go through topics like how to navigate the Linux command line, manage users and groups, also understand the file system, control permissions, install and manage software, secure the system, automate tasks with scripts, and even get introduced to cloud and container concepts. We're not just memorizing commands, we're using them. I'll walk you through real life examples, so by the time you finish this course, you'll be more than ready for the exam and the job. And look, I'm not here to teach theory that nobody uses. Everything I'm going to show you is based on what Linux administrators use on a daily. And even though I'm not a Linux administrator, these tools have helped me build my career as well, just by knowing Linux and understanding it. And also, if you've watched my YouTube channel, you already know how I get down. I mean, this course is about being practical, staying hands-on, and learning skills you can use today in any tech job. Now, in order to complete this course, you don't need a crazy setup to follow along. A basic computer with a couple gigabytes of RAM is fine. And I'll show you how to install a virtual machine so you can practice safely without messing up your main operating system. And also, if you got an old laptop that's collecting dust, then that's perfect. We'll turn that into your lab. I just want you to have a space where you can break things and fix them again. That's how you really learn Linux. Now, throughout the course, I'll be using Ubuntu Server for a lot of our labs because it's beginner friendly and widely used in the real world. But I'll also show you guys Rocky Linux, especially if you're aiming for environments based on Red Hat or CentOS. You can use VirtualBox or VMware, or even set it up on cloud platforms if you want to level up. I'll walk you through every step, so don't stress. Now, let me say this real quick. I built KeepItTechie to give people a chance to break into tech without feeling intimidated or overlooked. I've been where you are. I had to teach myself a lot of this stuff from scratch. And that's why I explain things the way I do, to make it easier for you to succeed. This is a judgment-free zone. You're gonna get it wrong sometimes, and that's cool. The goal is to keep learning, keep building, and stay consistent. All right, so let's get into it. In the next video, we're going to install Linux and build your lab environment so you can start practicing. So don't worry if you've never done this before. I'm walking with you step by step. And by the end of this course, you'll be way more confident in Linux, and you'll have a solid foundation that's respected across the industry. So let's get to it. All right, now before we jump into the next lesson, I want to make sure you get your lab environment ready to go. Like I said earlier, we're going to be doing everything hands-on in this course. So I want you to follow along using your own system. And that's pretty much how you learn Linux for real. It's not just watching, but by typing these commands yourself and seeing what happens. And the easiest way to set up a Linux lab is by using VirtualBox. So let me switch over to my system so I can show you guys how to get VirtualBox installed. I already had a website up, but this is Windows 11. And so I want you guys to go over to virtualbox.org, and then from the home page, go down and click on the download button up here at the top, and this will take you to where you can get all the packages based on the platform that you're running on. And like I said, we're running on Windows, and then you also have options for Mac OS. And the reason I chose to do this install on Windows is because I know that majority of the people that will watch this course is probably going to be working off of a Windows system or Mac OS. And I promise you, this is the last time we will see a Windows operating system. But anyway, let's go down and click the download, and I already downloaded it already. I ran into a problem because this Windows OS is messed up, but let's go up in here and run the actual exe file. So that's essentially what it'll download, a exe file. And let me delete that duplicate, but let's go on and get it installed and just walk through the normal process of installing an exe, which should be very simple for you guys. Just hit accept, next, next, and yes, and next, and install. All right. And then one other thing, while this thing is installing, let me show you guys how to get the ISO. So if you go over to ubuntu.com, I just recommend you guys use Ubuntu. All you have to do is hit downloads. And of course, I have all these links down in the description of the video. You can download either or, the desktop version, the server version. They even have a Raspberry Pi version if you want to use it. But I'm going to just download the server version just to make this simple. And the install is not that long, so I'll just show you guys this one, but the process is pretty much the same no matter if it's the desktop or the server. Actually, the desktop is a little bit more graphical. It'll bring up a graphical desktop environment, and the server is still a menu based install, so it's not that difficult. But anyway, once it downloads, it'll let you know. And actually, let me finish up the VirtualBox install right fast, so we can go down and uncheck that, hit finish, and then let's go down and minimize this right fast. All right, and it looks like it didn't download yet, so you hit here. This will take you to the download page, and it'll start the download on your system automatically. And this is the latest version. 24.04 is the long-term supported release currently. And what that means is you'll get security updates and support for 5 years. And so just let it download, and I'll come back when it finishes. One of the things I do also, whenever I have VirtualBox installed, I create a folder like in my documents or something like that to store all my ISOs. So let's create a new folder in here, and I just keep everything organized that way. So this is actually Linux ISOs, and press enter. So that's where we'll store all our ISOs on our system. So once that one downloads, which we have a downloads folder open already, we can just copy it over to that folder. And that's where we'll store, organize our Linux ISOs or whatever ISOs you download to the system. All right, so now that it's downloaded, all you have to do is grab this ISO. Let's go down and copy it or cut it and move it over here to our ISO directory. And let's go down and close all this stuff to clean up the screen. But let's open up VirtualBox and walk you guys through how to set up your first virtual machine. Now, once it opens up, this is VirtualBox. It's very simple. Now, I may run into issues, but you shouldn't run into any issues like that, where it just popped up and said that it couldn't emulate a USB. You shouldn't see that when you pull it up. But anyway, so in order to create a new virtual machine, all you have to do is click new here. And this will go through the process of setting one up. And you can name it whatever you want to. Like, for instance, you can name it Ubuntu-training. And then it will create a directory under your user directory called VirtualBox VMs, and that's where it'll store the virtual hard drives. Now, what you want to do is select your ISO, and like I said, we stored that in our documents directory. We had that Linux ISO directory, and that's why it's best to just organize everything. That way you put it in the same place, and that's pretty much it. It'll go down and pull in the type of operating system based on the ISO. It automatically saw that it was Ubuntu 24, so it's selected down here, so you don't have to select any of that. All you have to do is hit next. Boom. And I haven't used VirtualBox in a while now, so this is my first time seeing this, but you can get the unattended guest as installs onto your system by using a username and password it'll create, or you can just attach it this way. This is the way I used to do it. I would just attach the ISO and then install it via that way. But also it's super cool because they added this. If you have a Windows host or a Windows guest, then you can put the product key in there and all that good stuff. So let's hit next right there. I'm just not going to select it. And this is where you set up your hardware. Now, this is the base memory. You can set it up for about 2 gigs, but it all depends on how much hardware you have on your system. I'm gonna just use 2 because this is really a virtual machine that I'm running this in. And so it only has 8 gigs of memory. So I'm gonna select 2. And I'm gonna leave the processor at 1. It's all depending on what you have on your system. And then you want to at least have about 20 gigabytes of space for server install. That's what I recommend. It'll default it to 25. That's fine. And so we'll hit next there. And just so you guys don't do this, but don't hit the pre-allocated full size. We want to leave the drive dynamic so it'll grow as the operating system gets bigger. So anyway, let's hit next there and then finish. And so now all you have to do is select your newly created virtual machine and then hit start, and that will start up the actual virtual machine. You can go through the install of the operating system And so I'm gonna stop right here, but I'm gonna switch over to another virtual machine so you guys can see the full install of Ubuntu server. All right, so I'm booted up into the ISO. Let me go down and walk you guys through the install right fast so you can get your lab set up. So let's hit try and install a Ubuntu server. And what it'll do, it'll boot up the operating system from the ISO, and then it'll automatically open up the installer. And you'll see how easy it is once we actually get to it. It's not difficult at all. And boom, here we go. All we have to do is just select your language, and I'll quickly run through this. You select your keyboard layout, press enter there. And what I recommend you guys do is install the top one. Don't do the minimize because it comes with a lot less tools that you most likely will need. Like for instance, the tab, like autocomplete in the terminal, and certain tools you may need, they'll be pre-installed on the system just to make the experience a whole lot better with the server. So recommend you do that. You don't have to install third-party drivers, but so let's hit done there. You can select a static IP address, or you can leave it the way it is. That's fine. Let's go and hit done. If you have a proxy server, you can select a proxy server. We're not going to do that. Then this is going to check the mirrors for Ubuntu and find the closest ones to you, which most likely will be in the US. If you're not in the US, then it'll pull up the mirrors that are closest to you, no matter where you are in the world. Now, all you have to do is wait for that to finish, and it doesn't really tell you. It tells you right here, the mirror location passed the test. And so just hit done there. And then right here is just setting up the hard drive. So it automatically selected our 32 gigabyte hard drive that we had set up, a virtual disk setup. So just verify that's selected. Use the entire disk. You can set up LVM. I'll leave all that default. This is all normal or easy for you to set up. And then this is a summary of everything that it's going to do. So all you have to do is press enter there for done, and it will start the install after creating your account. So create just a normal account. You can name it whatever you want. So let's name the server. I'm gonna just put UBS 24. So this Ubuntu 2024. And then our user account, or the username that will be in there, that's different from your name at the top. It wants you to put in your full name, but you don't have to up at the top. And then let's go down and type in our full password or password, whatever password you want to use. Just make sure you remember it, because you're going to need that a lot once we get into the course. And I'll show you guys that once we start running commands as sudo. And you can skip this right here. This is Ubuntu Pro. Make sure you install OpenSSH server on the system. And let's go down and skip down to the bottom, hit done. And then you can also install applications. It gives you this option to install certain applications that are typically used by people that are setting up servers. So I'm gonna just skip that and hit done. And then it's already installing in the background, and you'll see it start moving there. It's installing the kernel right now. That's why it allows you to select all those other selections, because it hasn't got to that part where it installs other software that you want on there, as well as installing SSH and then creating the user account. It'll do that over time, you know what I'm saying? And then you'll see when it's ready to reboot. As you can see, the server install is very simple. It's not that difficult to do. All you have to do is go down here to reboot now. It'll tell you that the installation is complete. One thing that you'll probably see, it'll pop up with this failed, because it's trying to unmount the CD drive. It thinks it's a CD drive, but it's a virtual CD drive. So it doesn't like automatically open up with the CD. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to press enter. That way it'll get past that. And then it'll boot up your operating system from there. And then you can just log in using the user account that you created, and then we can go through the training from here. All right, so let me go down and show you guys how to get the graphical version of Ubuntu installed as well. Let's hit try and install Ubuntu. This will bring up a graphical environment. So once it boots up, like I said, it'll go right into the installer, just like the server install we just did. And it's pretty much the same. It just looks a lot better. So you select your language, boom, accessibility. I'm gonna hit next, but you can go in and make changes there if you need them. Select your keyboard layout, next, and then connect to the internet. The same way, we're gonna use the wired connection. You can update the installer. I'm gonna just skip that for right now and just hit install. Then you can do the interactive install or the automated install. I recommend you just do the interactive. That way you can set everything up the way you want it. You have your default selection or extended selection. This is for offline. You can select all your tools that you want, but let's hit next there. Install third-party software if you need it for like graphics and Wi-Fi, hardware, all that stuff. You can download and install support for additional media formats and all that stuff. So that's if you need it. I'm gonna just hit next there. I'm not gonna do it because, like I said, this is just in VirtualBox. So we're just gonna run through it. Let's see, erase this. Yes, we want to. You can go into the advanced features. You can use LVM and encryption. Erase the disk and use ZFS if you want to. ZFS and encryption. We're gonna roll with what we have right there. with just LVM. Let's go down and hit next there, and let's go down and create our account. And then I'm gonna just name this U24. So Ubuntu24, and then put in our password. Boom. And then put it in twice, and then require password to log in. Yes. And then there is an option to add it to Active Directory. We don't need that. Select your location. Boom. And then right here is the summary, and all we have to do is hit install, and it will install the operating system. And lastly, it's hard for me to go through every distribution, so these are just two of the simplest I wanted to go through. But you can get Rocky Linux installed the exact same way. Just download the ISO, boot up the ISO, and then it's a simple just walkthrough of installing Rocky Linux. And if you guys need any help, you could check anywhere on my channel. I have videos showing you guys how to install a whole bunch of different types of Linux distributions. And nowadays, a lot of these distributions are very simple to install, just like what we experienced with Ubuntu a few seconds ago. But once this finishes installing, we're just going to reboot, and then you can log into it, and you'll have a full desktop environment that you can play around with and break during this course. So let's move on to the next area. All right, y'all, before we go too deep, we got to clear something up. Linux comes in different flavors, and two of the main ones are desktop and server. So when we talk about desktop Linux, think Ubuntu with a graphical interface, as well as apps like Firefox, LibreOffice, and all the things you would expect if you were using Windows or Mac OS. But when it comes to server Linux, we're talking minimal setup. So there's no distractions, just speed, performance, and efficiency. And most production environments like websites and databases run on the server versions. And that's what we'll focus on through this course, because that's what'll show up on the Linux Plus exam and what you'll use on a job. Now, I get it. The command line can feel intimidating if you're new. But once you learn a few key commands, the terminal becomes your friend. You can easily install software, manage files, and stop services, all with just a few keystrokes. And plus, it's faster, more powerful, and honestly gives you way more control than any ever could. Now, I know I currently have a GUI up. This is Rocky Linux with a desktop environment on it, but you can get to the terminal no matter if you're using one of those GUI versions or a server version of Linux, which is why I showed you guys how to install the desktop version of Ubuntu as well as the server version in the last video. And I only brought this up so you guys can use this as training. You can have a desktop environment for your training. When you're managing servers or working in cloud environments, you might not even have a graphical interface. So it's not just nice to know the terminal, it's a necessity. Now, if you're on a desktop version of Linux, you can open up a new terminal using Control-Shift-T. And if you're on a server, you'll probably be connected through SSH. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, just know the terminal is your command center. And trust me, once you get used to it, it's hard to go back. All right, so most Linux systems use a shell called bash by default. Bash stands for Born Again Shell, and it's where all the action happens. So from commands to scripting, navigating, you name it. And if you want to check what shell you're using, you can run echo $shell. And this is a system variable, which is what I'm typing at $shell, just so you guys know. And if you run that, that'll let you know what shell you're actually using. And most distros, the default is bash. But you might also run into other shells like Z shell or fish. But bash, like I said, is the standard for certification and job roles. And actually, let's zoom in a little bit right fast so you guys can see a little better. And I'm going to close this other one so it's not a distraction. Let's zoom in one more time. And so that's the command I ran, the echo $shell. Now, let me give you guys a couple more shortcuts to kind of make your life easier. For one, once you start running commands, you can use the up and down arrow, and that will run through all the commands you ran in the past. That's basically your history, your shell history. Like I ran an update as soon as I got the system up and running. So it ran through and checked for updates and updated the system. And that's pretty much all I ran on this system so far. But you can keep scrolling through and look at your command history by just pressing the up and down arrow. Now, let's say you're typing out something like, for instance, the echo command. You can stop right there and hit the tab key, and this will auto-complete based on what you've typed so far. And if it can't figure out what command you're trying to type, it will list out commands that you may be trying to type. Like, for instance, I'm gonna back it off and just hit tab twice, and it'll show you everything that starts with an E. So you can look at all the commands that start with the letter E. But if it's only one command, after typing a certain amount of letters, it'll go down and finish it out for you by hitting that tab key. Now, let me show you guys another shortcut right fast. You can hit Control L. And this will clear the terminal for you. This works on the server and desktop environment the exact same. You hit Control key and hit the L key, and that will clear the screen. Now, it doesn't get rid of all your commands because you could actually scroll up and see what you typed before. But it basically just moves the terminal up to the top to clear any of the commands you typed previously. And then also, another shortcut right fast I want to show you guys. If you open up top, and I know I haven't got to running applications from the terminal, but top is an utility that gives you systems information. So how much RAM you're using, how your CPUs are managing, what services are running, and all that stuff. So let's go down and run it right fast. But as you can see, it'll update like every 2 to 5 seconds, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but it basically updates this information as things happen on your system. So it's kind of like a system monitor, like on Windows. This will give you some information. So you're probably wondering how to stop this. Well, it's the same with running shell scripts or anything that doesn't have a quit button in the terminal. You can hit the Control key and C, and that will stop whatever is running, or cancel a running command or script. It'll stop it right when you type that in. And these little tricks will save you so much time and frustration. Trust me on that. Now, one thing I encourage you to do is use the terminal every day, even for simple stuff. And instead of using the GUI to open a folder, try the CD command, which will take you to that folder from the terminal. And let's say you need to check the IP address, then use IPA. And actually, let me show you guys some of these commands. So let's clear, and you can CD to your documents directory, for instance. Boom, that'll move you around to that directory, and you can ls that directory and see what's in it. And let's say you need to check what the IP address is right fast. You can type IP and then space A. This will give you the IP address of your system. So right now on this system, this is the IP address I have assigned to this system. And it's set up DHCP, so my DHCP server is giving out this IP address. But the more you use it, the more natural it becomes, because before you know it, you'll be flying through tasks that used to take, a couple minutes in the GUI to do. Now, this is a good time for you to open up your terminal and get comfortable. Try typing commands like ls and cd to get around. Let's say you want to get around to the root directory. I know you guys don't know that yet, but let's type ls there and see what's in there. Also use the clear command to clear the screen, and don't be afraid to mess up. That's how we learn. And if you ever get stuck, then use that tab key. So let's say you don't remember a certain command, then you can, just like with the echo, you can hit the tab key and that'll show you guys the options you have there. So now you know the difference between desktop and server Linux and why the terminal is such a critical skill. We'll build on as we go deep into the command line in the next video. So now you know the difference between desktop and server Linux and why the terminal is such a critical skill. We'll build on that foundation as we go deeper into the command line in the next video. We'll start working with directories. So let's keep pushing, let's keep learning, and let's keep it techie. All right, so let me quickly go through all these commands again so you guys can just kind of follow along. Let me clear right fast. And the first command I showed you guys was that echo. So we can type echo and then $shell and press enter. Boom. They'll tell you what type of shell you have. Now, let me show you guys another command. So this is pwd, which stands for print working directory. So let's press enter. This will show us where we are within the command line. This is very useful as far as the location that we're in. And if you guys didn't know, this tilde actually means your home directory. And that is your default location. When you open up the shell, it'll open it up under your home directory. Now, I'll just show you guys the ls command again. So you can run that. That'll list everything that's in that home directory or that working directory that we're in, which is home/Josh. And then let me show you the cd command again. So let's say we want to go into our documents directory, press enter. That'll take you to that directory. And most shells, they'll show you the location that you're in, but if you need to know the full location, you can use that pwd again, and that'll print out the full location. So as you can see, documents is added to that. That is the current working directory we're in, versus when we were up here, we were in the home directory, which is home Josh. And right here, we're in home Josh documents. And then let's say you want to go up a directory. Well, simplest way is using that cd command with 2 periods back to back. That will take you up one directory. So let's press enter there. And as you can see, it'll go back to that home directory because we didn't have another folder in that documents directory. And actually, let me show you guys that right fast. So let's go into our documents directory again. And one thing about Linux is case sensitive. So you can have two folders named the exact same thing. So you can have one with a lowercase d for documents or with a capital D, and they'll be looked at as two different files. And then let me make a directory, and I'm just quickly showing you guys that. I'll get a little further into that in the next video, but let's just create a test directory, and we can ls the documents directory again, and you'll see we have that folder tests. So let's go into our test directory as well, and then let's do a print working directory so we can see the location we're in. As you can see, we're in the directory under documents called test, and let's say we want to go back to our documents directory, which is up one directory. You can type that cd, boom, and you'll see that we're back in that documents directory. And then we can also ls again, and you'll see that test directory right there. And then also, if we want to go up again, we can do cd dot dot again, press enter, and that'll take us back to our home directory. Now, let me go back to our documents and then our test directory that we just created. And let me clear the screen, bring it back up to the top. So that's Control L, like I showed you guys a little earlier. And let's do the print working directory. And you guys remember, I showed you guys CD, that'll take you up one directory. But let's say you just want to go back to your home directory. You can type CD and then tilde and press enter, and that'll take you back to your home directory. And actually, let's go back up and go back into our documents test directory again. And let me show you guys another way to do it. You don't have to type that tilde. You can just type CD, and this will always take you back to that home directory. Now, don't you remember I showed you guys the tab? So if we type DOC and press tab, that'll go down and finish out that directory that we want to get to. But if I take it back and hit tab twice, that'll show you two directories that start with those first two letters. So that's just a way to figure out where you want to go if you don't remember the name of a particular folder. Just using that tab is super easy to help you. Now, let's say you don't remember something. I think I went through this as well. You can press the up and down arrow, and that'll take you through all the commands you ran previously. And you press down, and that'll go to the front. And you can press back up. And then you can also run those commands again just by pressing the up arrow. You can find whatever command you want and press enter, and that'll get to it. And so now you know the difference between desktop and server Linux and why the terminal is such a critical skill. And we'll build on this foundation as we go deeper into the command line in the next video, where we'll start working with directories. So let's keep pushing. Now that you've got the terminal open and you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, let's take it up a notch and dive into directories. Now, directories are basically folders just like in Windows and Mac OS. But in Linux, you'll mostly navigate and manage them from the command line, especially on servers. Now, there are two ways to move around the file system. You have your absolute path and your relative path. And let me show you guys the difference right fast. So let's type pwd, press enter. Now, this is your absolute path. So it starts from the root directory and goes all the way to the destination, which currently we are in the home directory. Now, a relative path, though, starts from wherever you are right now. So if you're already in home Josh, which is where we are, and you want to go to, let's say, the documents directory, then that is a relative path. Like, for instance, right here. So documents, that is the relative path. So you don't have to type out the full path or the absolute path to get to documents. You can just type documents and that'll get you to that directory. And let me show you what I mean. Let's go a little further back, and this is the full path and then documents directory. And then let's cd back to my home directory, and this is our relative path. So if we type cd and then documents, press enter, and that is the relative path. As you can see, you get to the same location by typing it out differently. And so knowing the difference is key to writing scripts and moving around efficiently. Now, I covered the cd, the ls, and a pwd command just to show you how the file system is set up, but I want to explain them to you now. So the cd command is your bread and butter, and you use it to change into any directory. And cd actually means change directory. And let me quickly show you the documentation for the cd command. And I'll get into more of this command later on, but it's called the man command. This is the manual for any command that you're using or you're trying to use. If you type man cd, this will take you to the manual for the cd command. And you can get all the information about that command, as you can see. So if you go through it, you can check out what it actually means, and all the good information you need in order to learn how to use the actual command. So let's quit out of that, and I just press Q to get out of that, just so you guys know. But like I said, you just basically use that to change into any directory. Now, I also covered the ls command, or I used it. Well, let's look at the information for the ls command. Now, the ls command lets you list directory contents. And if you look in the manual, it goes through a bunch of options and how to actually use a command and what those options actually mean. And most utilities in the command line have what they call a man page or a manual, which goes through how to actually use those commands. And then also I covered the pwd command, and some utilities don't have a man page. I'm not sure if pwd does, but we will see right fast it does. And so print name of current working directory. And then you can check out the synopsis, the description as well for that command to get a better understanding of. But anyway, it's time for you to try running some of these commands. And I'll give you a quick example so you can follow along with me, but let's type cd. And then let's go to our root directory. So we type that / that'll take you to our root directory. And then let's also use the ls command. So let's go ls, press enter, and that'll list out the contents for that directory that we're in, which is our root directory. Now let's also run pwd so we can see where we are to print the working directory. As you can see, we're in the root directory. So that's super easy, right? All right, so let's kick it up a notch and start making directories so you guys can understand. Let me clear right fast, and let's cd and get back to our home directory. But let's say you're working on a project and you want to organize your files. Then there is another command called make directory. So it's mkdir. So let's type mkdir. And actually, let's go back to the front of it and type man. So man mkdir, so you can get an understanding of what the application is. Basically, it is a utility that allows you to create directories, and it stands for make directories. And you can read through the manual, check out the information about the utility or command, just so you can get a better understanding, because there are some options here I'll show you guys, like for instance, the -p, which is right here. The -p option creates parent directories automatically if they don't exist. So let's go ahead and quit out of here and show you guys how to use this command. So let's type mkdir, and let's say we want to create a projects directory. And all you have to do is type out the name of the folder and press enter, and that'll create that directory. And one thing you'll understand with Linux, or start getting with Linux, as long as you don't see any errors or where it says it can't complete that action, then it did what you wanted it to do. Meaning that it will only give you feedback if you make a mistake, essentially. Now, in our home directory, you guys remember that ls command. Let's type it again, and we can see what's all in there. And as you can see, we created this folder called projects. And let's go and open up our file explorer right fast. Just want to show you guys. And the file explorer will open up in your home directory as well. And as you can see in this directory, you'll see that projects folder that we created from the command line. And so that's super simple, right? That's how you create a folder. You can also do it the exact same way, just like in Windows. You can right click, but I'm only using a desktop environment just to show you guys that it does the exact same thing in a command line that you can do from the GUI. And that way you can see a visual of the actual directory being created. So let me explain that p tag like I brought up when we were in the manual. Well, let's say we need to create multiple folders, meaning a parent folder and child folder underneath that folder. So let me show you guys that right fast. So if we type mkdir and then -p, and then let's create a folder called test. And then you can also type out the relative path, and let's just create another folder called project1 and press enter. As long as you don't get any output, you're good to go. And then also if we look over in our home directory, the visual version, and click on tests, you'll see that it created two folders. It created that test folder and then that project1 folder as well. So the -p will create the top level folder and then the next folder underneath it. And we can also see the exact same thing here. So if we go ls, you'll see that we have the test, and then you can also use a relative path to look at the directory under test. So if we type ls and then let's type test and press enter, and you'll see that projects1 directory underneath test. So that's super useful, right? Now, let's say we want to remove those directories that we created. To remove an empty directory, you can use the remove directory command. And let me go to that man page right fast. So let's type man or mdir. That is the command. So let's press enter, and you'll see it says remove empty directories. You can use this command specifically. And just pay attention to the word empty here, because it only works on empty directories. So let's go on and quit right fast and show you guys how to use that. So what we're going to do is remove that directory, the projects folder. So let's press enter. And as you can see, we didn't get any errors. And so we're good to go. And if we ls this directory again, we'll see that that projects directory is gone. And then also in the GUI version, you'll see that that projects directory is gone. And all we have left is that test directory. Now let's try that remove directory on our test directory and show you guys what will happen. So remove directory and let's check out test and press enter. As you can see, it failed to remove test directory because it's not empty. So in order to remove a directory that has content in it, you have to use an option with the remove command. So the remove command is a little bit different. Let me type man and then or m, press enter. This remove files and directories. So you have to use this to remove files and directories. So let's say a directory that has content in it. So let's go ahead and quit that and give you guys an example of that. And let me get back up to the top right fast so you guys can see, but let's type right. And then what we have to use is the option -r for recursive. Now you want to be careful with this because you can delete entire directories and their content. So if you have a whole bunch of stuff in there and you accidentally run this against the wrong folder, you will delete everything in there and there's no way to recover it. Because when you run this command from the command line, there is no confirmation. Are you sure you want to delete this or whatever? It's not going to stop it. It's just going to go through and delete everything in there. And there's no recycle bin when it comes to running these commands in the command line. It will delete it from the system. It'll mark that space on your drive as a place to write new files. And so let me show you guys that right fast. Let's run it against the test directory again and press enter. As you can see, it deleted that file. We didn't get any output. It deleted that folder and any of the folders underneath it and the content. Now let me create that folder again. Let's go make directory and then -p and then test and then project 1 and press enter. That'll create those folders again for us. And the reason I want to create the folder back because I want to show you guys a way to confirm what you're doing before deleting something. And you can type rm-r. And then there's another option called I. You could throw that in there and this will confirm before deleting. So if you get in the habit of using -or-I, that will make sure you're confirming what you want to do. That way you'll at least see what's going to happen and it's going to force you to answer a question saying, yes, I want to delete this. Let's run this against the directory right fast and press enter. And you'll see right there, it says descends into directory test. Are you sure you want to remove anything underneath it? And so if you type Y, press enter and type Y and press enter, and this will go through and delete everything up in there. Boom, and you get to go. So it'll confirm every step. And let me break it all down for you. It tells you that it's going to descend into the directory test, meaning that it's going to look into that directory. And then it's going to verify that you want to remove this folder under the test directory. And you type Y, yes, that'll confirm it. And then it'll ask you if you want to remove that parent directory and you just type Y for yes, and you're good to go. So that's a very important option that I wanted to highlight to you guys. Trust me, it saved me in the past. And I don't want you guys to run into this issue and you actually go into a job somewhere and you run that command and you delete historical data for, let's say, some financial data. You accidentally remove some financial data from the organization. You're going to get fired because there's no way to recover it once you run that command like that. So just be very careful with it. Just wanted to make sure I highlight that. Okay, so let's talk about copying and moving directories. Now the copy command, let me show you guys that right fast. Let's go into the man page for copy. And the command is CP. So that's the copy command. Let's check it out. But basically it copies files and directories. And you can go through and check out some of the flags that you can add to it. And the main one I want to focus on is the -r, which is for directories. Now let me create a quick file right fast. Let's do test.txt, press enter. That'll create a file called test text. And so this is a text file essentially. Now let's create that test directory again that we had before. And I'll just press the up arrow, just show you guys how you can go through the commands that you already used in the past. And we can look for the make directory. And let's create that one right there with the test and project 1. Now, let me show you guys the basic way of copying something. So let's say we want to copy that test file, which is right here, and we want to put it into the test directory. Well, all you have to do is specify the file first. So we want to use test.txt. And we want to copy that into a specific directory, which is our test directory. And I just hit tab so you guys can see that it will look for anything with the same name. But all you have to do is put that / in there, and this will copy the test file into the test directory. So let's go ahead and press enter, and you didn't see any output, so that means we're good to go. And we can ls this directory again and see that the test file is actually there and it was copied. And so let's ls our test directory so we can see if there's a copy of it. And as you can see, the test file is there as well. Now let me show you guys how to copy a directory. So use that same copy command, and what I'm gonna do is copy that test directory over to the documents directory. So let's type test, and let's put a / there so it knows to copy that directory. And let's say we want to copy it to our documents directory. So all you have to do is type documents, and this will copy the directory into the documents directory. And I want to show you guys in the error right fast, because what it'll do is it'll not copy that directory because there are files in that directory. So this is where the -or comes in, which I talked about earlier. This is what you need in order to copy a directory, because the or stands for recursive. It will copy that directory as well as the files underneath it. So let's press up arrow so we can go back to this command and run it again using -or as an option, and press enter. And you'll see that we didn't get any errors, so we're good to go. And the way you test to make sure it worked, let's just check our home directory and make sure that test directory is still there. It is still there. So what it did was copy this directory into this directory with all the files underneath it. And so let's ls our documents directory so we can check and see if that directory is there. And yeah, as you can see, test and test. So it copied that full directory as well as the files underneath it. And we can verify those files by just typing document and then test directory, press enter, and you'll see that the project 1 directory is there as well as that test file that we created. So that's super cool, right? Now, let's say we want to rename a directory or move a directory so it doesn't leave a copy of it where it is. So let's cd to our documents directory right fast, and let's remove the directory. And you guys remember we have to use -or for recursive, and let's get rid of that test directory that we copied over there and press enter. That'll remove that directory. And if we ls the documents directory, you'll see that directory is gone now that we copied over there. So instead of copying it, let's say we meant to move it over to our documents directory. So let's type cd to get back to our home directory. And let's say we want to move the test directory into the documents directory so it doesn't leave any copy of tests in the home directory. So you have to use that move command. So let me go to the man page for move right fast so you guys can see, but man move, press enter. It moves and renames files. And so let's hit Q for quit to get out of that. And let's actually move that directory. So let's go move test, and then let's move that to our documents directory and press enter. And if we look under our documents directory now, we'll see that the test directory is there. And if we ls our home directory again, you'll see that that test directory is gone now. Now, when I said rename, you can also rename it while moving the directory. Let's say we want to move this test directory back to our home directory. So let me show you guys how to do that. So if we type move, and then we want to give the relative path to our test directory, which is under now documents, say we want to move that directory and we want to move that back to our home directory. So you could type the full path, so home/Josh, and that'll move that directory. But let's say we want to rename it to something else. Let's rename it to test2. And actually, let's get rid of this / right here. So we want to move it from documents to our home directory, but we want to name it test2. So let's go down and press enter, boom. And you'll see that it moves it to our home directory again, but it also renames that directory. And if you look in it, you'll see the project and the test file as we've seen before. And if we look in our documents directory, it's gone now. Let me show you guys that in the command line as well. So if we ls documents, boom, you'll see nothing is there. If we ls our home directory again, you'll see that test2 is there. So that's how you move and rename files. And like I said, you can use this for files as well. I know I just said that, but I just want to reiterate that with you as well. But if we type move, and let's move that test text file, but we want to name it to something else. So test text, and we want to move that into our test2 directory, and we want to name it something different. So you have to type in a new name for it. So let's go test2 txt and press enter, and you'll see that that file actually leaves from our home directory. And if we look into our test2 directory, we'll see we have test and test2. And then we can also just ls our test2 directory again, so we could see if that file is there. And you'll see that both of those files are there. We got the test and then the test2 file as well as that project directory, which is pretty much the same as you see right here in the GUI. All right, so if you haven't already, go on and get your hands dirty, man. Create new folders, structure, move around inside it, try copying, renaming some directories, then clean things up by deleting them. This kind of repetition helps lock it into your muscle memory. So don't be afraid to break stuff. It's your lab, it's your virtual machine. You can always delete it and recreate another one if you want to. And this should give you a solid foundation for navigating and managing directories in Linux. And these skills are going to show up again and again in scripts, in system configurations, and in the exam. So next up, we'll dive into working with files. That's where things really start to come together. So I'll see you in the next one. All right, so now that you got directory navigation down, it's time to talk about files, because everything in Linux is a file. Seriously, whether it's a config file, a program, or even a device, it's all treated like a file. So knowing how to manage files from the terminal is a fundamental skill that you'll use in nearly every session. So let's start off by creating a file. And the simplest way is using the touch command, which I showed you guys in the last video. And so first off, let's go to the man page for it. So man touch and press enter, and this will show you information about the touch command. But this is the easiest way to create a file in Linux. And so let me go down and quit. You guys can read through that if you want to at a later time. But let me show you guys how it works. So let's just type ls to see what's in this directory. And let's just run the touch command and create, let's say, a notes text file. Press enter, and then let's ls again, and we'll see that notes.txt file is there. So that is the basic way of creating a file. Now you can also redirect text by using a different command, and that is echo. So you can go echo and then put single quotes, and I always do both of them at the same time and then go back and type in what I want, but testing echo. And then you can redirect that text into a file by using the arrows. So if we type a right arrow and then type out the text file name, like for instance, we could do echo.txt and press enter, and that will echo that text into that file. And so if we ls again, we'll see that we have that echo file as well. So we got our notes text file, and then we have that echo.txt file. And so that leads me into viewing these files. Now that we know that we had some text added to this echo file, how do you view that in the terminal? There are multiple commands that I want to cover for you guys. And the first one is cat. And so let's go to the man page for cats. Just to show you guys, it says concatenate files and print the standard output. So let's quit that right fast. But also I want to show you guys less. Less provides you with more flexibility. You can scroll through the file. So when you have a long, super long log file or something like that, you want to use less. That way you can scroll through the file. And you can also do a little bit of searching, as well as you can quit the file simply by typing Q. And then also 2 other commands I want to cover is head. So let's man head, but this will output the first 10 lines of a file. Let's quit that. And then also tail, which does the exact opposite of head. Prints out the last port of a file, so the last 10 lines. And so these commands are beneficial for dealing with those long log files, like I said, or huge configuration files. They'll be a lifesaver. But let me give you guys a couple examples of the cat command, the less command, and the head command. So let's type cat, and let's check that notes file and press enter. And I apologize, I meant to do the echo file. So let's type echo and press enter, and you'll see that text that we wrote into that file. So that's super cool, right? And then, like I said, with the less command, you can type that as well. And it won't really give you a great example because it's only one line of text in there, but at least gives you the information that's in there and expand it depending on how long the file is. So let's quit there. And one other command I forgot to tell you guys is more. More is essentially the opposite of less. So let's run that one as well. So let's go more echo.txt, press enter, but it'll concatenate out. And just to go to the man page right fast for more, just to show you guys, it'll say is a way to page through files. It's a little bit different from less. It'll page through the actual files. And all you have to do is hit the space bar to go to the next page. So let's quit that right fast. And then let's also show you guys the head and tail command, which is really not going to show right unless I had some bigger files, but I'll just show you guys anyway. And then we can actually go to some configuration files on the system to show you guys better examples using the tail and head command. So let's type tail Let's go down and clear right fast, and I'll find you guys a file that we can run these commands against. And I believe it's best to go under our log directory. So let's go cat and then var log. And then let me hit tab twice so I can see what's in here. Let's check out the DNF log. So let's go DNF log and press enter. As you can see, it'll spit out all the text in that file. And as you can see, it's hard to scroll back and forth up while it's, you know what I'm saying? So that's where the more and less command actually comes in. So let's start off by running less against the same file and press enter. As you can see, it starts at the top, but then you can go down through the file one line at a time. So it's very beneficial right there. So all you have to do is press Q to get out of it. Now let's try more so I can show you guys the difference, and it will allow you to page down. So as you can see, if we go, it'll go down to the next page. See 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%. It'll keep going 5% throughout the file. So we can press Q to quit that as well. Now, let's say you want to look at just the top of the log file. This is where head comes in. So if you type head, press enter, this will show you the top 10 lines within that log file. I know it's confusing to see because this is where I ran the command. And so that's 10 lines in that file from the top to the bottom. And then it's the exact opposite for tail. And actually, let's press the up arrow again and let's run and press. And I'll show you the last 10 lines of this actual file. Now let's go down and clear again. And now I want to move into the copy and moving files, which is slightly different from what I showed you guys with the directory. For one, you don't have to use recursive because it's just a file. It's not a folder with files in it or other directories. So you can just type the copy command out normally. Let's ls this directory again. And don't you remember the notes.txt file we created and the echo text file? I wanted to show you guys how to copy both of those at one time. So you can just type copy and then specify those files. So let's go notes and then let's get that echo file too. And we want to copy that and put that into our test2 directory again. So let's type test2 and press enter, and it'll copy both of those files into that directory. And if we ls our home directory again, we'll see the notes and the echo files are still there. So it didn't move it, it just copied it, and we can ls that test2 directory and press enter, and you'll see that there is a copy of that echo and note text file in there. And let's say we want to remove some files. So let's remove that echo and that notes text file from that directory. So let's go, and you have to put the relative path so it knows what to delete. So let's say we want to delete that echo.txt file, and then you can put 2 files in there. You can go back to that test.2 directory and you can delete the notes file as well. That's how you delete specific files from a particular directory. So let's press enter and it'll delete both of those files for us. And now let's move on to the move file, how to move and rename files. It's the exact same way as the way we did it for directories, but you don't have to use that -r. You can just move the files. So let's clear again and let's ls our home directory. We still have that notes and echo directory. And then let's also ls our test2 directory. And we'll see that the notes and the echo file that we copied over there is gone now. So let's say we want to move those files. So all you got to do is type move, specify those files. So let's go notes, text, and then our echo text file. And we want to move that into test2. And so let's press enter. And then if we ls our home directory, you'll see now that those files are gone. So let's say we want to move that notes file back to our home directory, but we want to name it to something else. So let's go move. Then we have to do the relative path. So let's go into our test directory and then let's grab that notes text file. And let's say we want to put it under our home directory and Josh directory. We want to move it there, but we want to rename it to something else. So let's just name it and take off the S instead of notes. We want to put note.txt, and that will allow us to move it and rename it at the exact same time. So let's go down and press enter. And if we ls our home directory now, we'll see that we have note.txt instead of notes text. And if we ls our test2 directory again, you'll see that notes text file is gone. So these are your go-to tools for organizing and managing your stuff. Now let's go into deleting files. And let me show you guys that right fast. You use that same remove command that we use for the directories. You just don't have to put that -r for recursive. So be very careful with this because it will delete it. It won't give you any feedback. It'll just delete the file altogether. So actually let's clear again and let's ls so you guys can see what's in that directory. Let's say we want to remove that note text file. So all you have to do is type or and then note and press enter, and that'll remove that file. We ls this directory, it remove that note text file. But like I said, please be careful with the remove command. There is no recycle bin or undo button here at all. And for extra safety, you can use that same option that I showed you guys in the past with the remove -I, and we can specify, let's say under that test2 directory, let's say we want to remove that echo file and press enter, and that'll at least give you something saying, hey, we're going to remove this file, and you can put a capital Y, press enter, and that'll remove that file for you. Now, that's especially important when using the next option I'm going to show you guys, which is a wildcard. And these are incredibly useful for handling multiple files. So let's clear right fast, and let me show you guys this right fast. So if we go ls, and then let's go under that test directory, or let's just see what's under there. As you can see, we have 2 text files in there. That's that test2 and that test.txt file. Let's say you want to remove both of those, or let's say it's 100 of those files in there that are just text files. They're all text files. Well, you can use a wildcard to remove them. So all you have to do is type remove, just like you're removing any other file, and then specify the directory. You want to go to that relative directory. And let's say we want to remove everything that ends with txt. It doesn't matter what the name of it is. So the store means anything before this. And you can type .txt. And if you press enter, this will remove both of them. But let me show you guys adding that -I so you can see it step by step. So let's press enter. Boom. It'll ask you if you want to remove test.2 text. Put a capital Y there. Press enter. And it's going to ask you for the next file in there. And so it'll find any file that ends with text and remove it from that directory. And if I didn't put that -I in there, it would have just removed them and you wouldn't have seen anything and it would just be gone. Now let me clean up a little bit so I can walk you guys through the next thing I want to show you guys. Let's clear the screen. And then also let's go in here. And I want to show you in here first so you guys can get an understanding of what I'm saying. Within our home directory, there are other files in here that you do not see, which are called hidden files or dot files. In Linux, any file that starts with a dot is considered hidden. So that's the way files are designated in Linux as far as hidden files. Like in Windows, you could just hide certain things. You have to go into the properties and hide something. In Linux, all you have to do in order to create a hidden file is to put a period in front of the name of it, and it will hide that file. Now, let me show you guys in here in the GUI how to actually show those files. It's just like in Windows. You just go in and just hit show hidden files. Boom. And as you can see, the home directory has a bunch of files, but they have a period in front of them. That's why they don't typically show up. And that's why when we run the ls command, we do not see those files as well because they're designated as hidden. But you can also see them by expanding on the ls command by typing the A option. So if we go ls and then -A and press enter, this will show all the files within that directory, even hidden files. And these dot files usually contain like configuration settings, and you'll be editing them often once you get into scripting or server configuration. Now, you can also open these files the exact same way we just showed you guys with the cat, or not open them, but print them out. Like for instance, let's look at our bash or C file right fast. So let's go cat and then .bash or C. You just have to specify the period in front of it and then type out the name of the file. So let's press enter. And it'll cat out that file for us. And as you can see, this is like our configuration file for our account. That's what the .c is for. It's just basically a configuration for your actual account, your home directory. And then you can also move into folders that are hidden by just using a cd command, and you can just put the period in front of it. Like for instance, this configuration directory, it has a lot of information in it. You could just put the period in front of it and then config, and actually let me get back over here, type config and press enter, and then we can ls that directory and you can see all the files underneath that hidden directory. And so I wanted to at least show you guys that, or at least a couple examples of how to actually do it. Look at these files. I don't want you messing with them, but I just wanted to at least show you guys how to use them. And it's certain files you can go in here and modify, like your bash or C, like I was saying. If you know what you're doing, you can modify that bash or C file to make changes to your profile, but that's typically for desktop environments. So just ignore that. When you're on a job, your bash or C is probably set by the administrator of the server. And when a new account is created, there's what they call a shell file, and this creates the accounts the exact same way when you run those commands to create users and stuff on the system. Now, if we go down and clear again, let's go back up to the top. And there's another reason to use the touch command. And let's go back to that man page right fast so you guys can see. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but let's go back to it. But as you can see, under the actual name of the command is touch, and the explanation of what the command is used for, it says change file timestamps. And so I just wanted to show you guys that is another reason for using the touch command. So let's run touch again and create another notes.txt, and boom. And so if we go back and let me hide these hidden files again so you guys can see this a little better. So we got our notes file right there. And if we run ls, there's some more options for this. You can do another one called la, and I'll get a little further into that one later on in the video. But if you go ls la, this will list out a long listing of the files. It'll list out all the hidden files, and it'll list out all the attributes to the actual files. And the only reason I'm showing you guys this is so you can see the other way to run the text command. So if we look at this file that we created, note.txt, as you can see, it was created at 1:41 p.m., which was like 2 minutes ago if we look up here at the top. Now, let me show you guys what you can do with the touch command. So you can type touch again and then run it against notes, text, press enter, and then let's run this ls-la again, and you'll see that the time has changed. So that's another reason to use the touch command, is to update timestamps on the actual files. And that's beneficial. I'll show you guys that later once we get into scripting. That's beneficial for when you're running scripts or long commands, depending on what you're doing. All right, so it's time for you guys to practice. Go ahead on and create a file, copy it, move it around, rename it, and also delete it. Try creating a few dummy text files or log files and clean them up using that wildcard. And also view your files using cat, less, and explore those hidden dot files in your home directory. It's all about building those habits now that you understand how to manage files within the terminal. And so now you know how to create, move, copy, view, and delete files, all from the terminal. This skill set forms the backbone of so much that you'll do with Linux. And in the next video, we're going to dig into working with file content, meaning editing, searching, and manipulating text files, so we can get a little better at this. So see you in the next one. All right, so now that you know how to manage files, let's dig into what's inside of them. So whether it's a config file, log file, or script, you'll be reading, editing, and searching file content all the time on Linux. And this is where your command line skills start to feel really powerful. Now, I know I kind of covered this in the last one, but I want to give a little bit deeper of a dive of the cat command. Like I said, it's great for quickly dumping a file's content to the screen. But when the file is long, that's when you use less, so you can scroll and search. And so let me hone in on how to actually search using the less command. Now, lastly, we looked at the log file in under var. So let's ls that directory so I can bring it up again so you guys can find it. So it's var www and then log, and boom, let's pull it up, and we want to look at the DNF log. And so let's run the less command against that DNF log file. So I'm gonna press the up arrow and then change the command to less, and then we want to specify the DNF log file, and let's press enter. And the way you search is by hitting the / key. So let me do that right fast, and you'll see a change at the bottom. So let's hit that, and let's search for a term. So let's try meta and press enter, and you'll find a lot of instances of metadata, and you can search through and find all of the lines that have metadata in it, and they're highlighted, of course, so you can go through and find each one that has metadata. And then you can also do the same thing for any other word. So you hit the / again. Let's say we want to look for base OS and press enter, and it'll go through and find base OS within that log file. So that's basically how you search with the less command. And then one thing you can do is hit the letter N, and that'll jump you to each instance of that term that you search. So let's hit N again, N again, N again, N again, and it's basically like next. So it's going through each one of them one at a time. So you could quickly jump to the lines to satisfy your search. Now, let's say you want to search outside of less. Well, this is where the grep command comes in. And so let's quit right fast, and I'll show you guys how to actually use the command. So let's do the exact same search how we did in less, but let's use grep. So let's type grep, and let's search for base OS again. So base OS, and then you want to specify the file you want to search, which is that var log and then dnf.log, and press enter, and that'll search from outside of the actual file. So it'll pull up each instance within this actual file, or each line that has your search term in it. So you'll see each line has a highlighted keyword of base OS, which is our search term, and it extracts all of it out and cat it out to the screen. Now, let me show you guys the actual man page for grep because it's very extensive. I'll just show you guys a little bit of it, but it prints lines that match a pattern. And you can go through and check out all the options. I'm gonna show you guys some of the most important ones that you may want to look into. Like for instance, let's say you're looking for something and you want it to be case insensitive. So it doesn't matter if it has capital letters in it or lowercase letters in it, because by default, grep looks for that search term as case sensitive, meaning that however you type it is how it's going to search for that term within the file. But in order to turn that off, there is an option for it, which is -I, which is to look for case insensitive. So if it has base OS, let's say the B is capitaled, you can search for just that. And let's run that command one more time. I don't know if it'll find anything or not, but this is how you do case insensitive. So I'm gonna put a capital B in there and it should pull up those same ones. So this is case insensitive. And so it doesn't matter if it has a different case in it, it will pull it out. And just to show you that it works, let's go up in here and remove the -I and press, and you'll see that it doesn't print out any results because there are no terms in this file that have the B. So it's case sensitive without the I, and it's case insensitive with that -I option. Now, let's say you want to search recursively. And what I mean by that is all the files within a particular directory. Then grep is great for this. You can use the -or option, which is the other way I want to show you guys how to use grep. So we can go grep and then -or and then our term, so base OS, and then we can specify our location, so var log, and let's use our wildcard just to make sure we only look at log files within that directory. So let's go down, press enter, and it will find every file. That's why it has the file name in here in ahead of the line, because it's looking through all the files within that location for the search term that we're looking for. So let's actually look for a different term. Let's look up debug, because I know that should be in multiple files. So debug and press enter. And as you can see, it should go through all of the files, and we may not see anything out of other files because debug may not be in any of the other files. I thought that would bring something up, but maybe not. Let's look for something a little bit different. Let's look for Red Hat, and it should be Red Hat in some of these files, and see it pulls up that boot, the log file, which we don't have permissions to at the moment. So let's try Rocky. Let's see what happens there. There we go. All right, so it pulls up some other files, and as you can see, this is DNF lib repo log, which that's a different log than what we've seen in the past. What else we got in here? Yeah, and then also our normal DNF.log, you'll see that. Oh, that's not Rocky, sorry. That's the debug term that we look for. But yeah, it only found Rocky in this file, but at least you know where those files are. You can search all those files within that directory using the grep command. Awesome, right? Now let's go down and clear again, and that way I can show you something else. Now, like I said earlier, there is the head and tail command, and the head shows the first 10 lines of a file and tail shows the last 10 lines. Let's expand upon that. So let's go back to, let's say, our log files in here again, but we're not going to use grep, obviously. And let's look up that DNF log file again, and let's remove it up here at the front, and let's run and press enter. And like I said, it'll show you guys the first 10 lines of the file, but let's expand and show you guys how to look at a certain number of lines. So I'm gonna hit Control L, and then we're gonna run the same command again, but there is an option for the head command is -n, and you can specify an amount of line numbers that you wanted to show. Let's say you only wanted to look at the first 5 lines instead of 10 by default. Well, all you have to do is type in that number, press enter, and as you can see, it only pulls up that certain amount of lines. And I don't know if you guys can tell this right here. This is one line because it's wrapped in the terminal. That's why it looks like that. It's wrapped, but that is one line. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also we can do, let's say, I'm gonna just go even lower. Let's say we want to look at the first 2 lines. Press enter, boom, that'll show you those first 2 lines. Now, the same thing can be accomplished with tail. So if we type tail and type -n, and let's type 2 again, and then var log, and then .log, and press enter, and I'll show you the last 2 lines within that file. And then also let me remove it off so you guys can see by default that tails does bring in the last 10 lines, and those 2 lines right here are the same 2 lines up here that it pulls in when we specified the last 2. And it can be as short as and long as you want when you're using that -n. So if you want to look at the first 20 lines in a file, you can go ahead and then type 20, press enter, and I'll show you the first 20 lines. And we scroll up a little bit. Let's see, let's go a little further up, and boom, that's the 20 lines right there. And the same thing with less. You can obviously specify whatever amount of lines you want to see using both of those commands. Now let's go down and clear. Let me show you guys another command that I want to tack onto this. So if we type man and then WC, this is basically a word count. And so it'll print all the lines, words, and bytes for the file that you specify. So they do have a couple options in here. You could definitely check those out, but I'm gonna show you guys the base way of actually running it and using it. So we're gonna use that same file. So WC-L, specify var log, and then DNF log, and press enter. And as you can see, that pulls up just the lines. And that's why I put -L in there. Like I said, it's all based on the options that you use. So if we go back into man WC and you scroll down, this counts the lines. And this will count the bytes. If you put C, M will count the characters, and then W will count the word. So if you need to see the word count of a file, this is super beneficial. Like let's run WC and then -W, and actually let's press the up arrow so we can go back into it that way. And let's type words. So let's press enter. It'll pull up the amount of words in an actual file. So let's say you're writing a term paper or something, you just want to quickly get the word count in your file. You can just run the WC command and -W, and that'll give you the word count. And so at the end of the day, I'm only showing you this because it's very useful for scripts and data files. All right, so let's say you want to organize and summarize data. Well, there are two other commands I wanted to show you guys, and that's the sort and the unique command. And let me go to the man pages for them right fast. Let's go to sort first. So let's check that out. You can sort lines of text within a file, and let's go and quit that. And then also let's go to the unique command. So man that, let's see, report or omit repeated lines. So that's what that's for. Let's go down and quit, and let me go down and create a quick file right fast. I know I didn't show you guys the nano command. I'll show you guys that a little later, but that's a text editor that you can use. So let's name a file called fruits.txt, and let's open it up in this text editor. And I'm only opening it up this way because I want to add a couple lines of text in here, which are different types of fruits. And I also have duplicates in here on purpose, so you guys can see that unique command in action as well. So let's go down and save this right fast, close it out. And let's start off with the sort command. So show you the basic way of running it. So sort and then fruits, and press enter, and that'll sort it in alphabetical order. As you can see, it moves all the A's up. It shows you the B's and then the G, K, and then the O. So it puts it in order. It basically sorts the data. Now you can combine this with the unique command to remove those duplicates. And let me show you guys that right fast. So we can run it the same exact way, and then let's pipe it into unique and press enter, and that will remove the duplicates. And as you can see, it only shows 5 lines. It gets rid of all of the duplicates, but you can also see how many duplicates are in there by adding another option to unique, which is -C. So let's press enter, and this will tell you how many instances of a particular text is in the file. So we got 3 repeats of apple, we got 4 repeats of banana, we got 2 grape, 1 kiwi, and 2 oranges. So I just only created this file really to show you guys these 2 commands. It's kind of hard to find something like a log file that will give a good representation of this command. That's essentially how the sort and unique command works. Now let's go down and clear. Now let me quickly create another file right fast, and I'll just name it people. So let's go nano and then people.tsv. I'll use a TSV file. Press enter, and let me paste this text up in here right fast. And this is tabbed text, and I'll show you guys what I'm using it for once we get out of it. I'm basically going to show you guys the cut command. And so cut is an interesting command. Let me show you guys the man page for it. So let's go cuts, man cuts, and then it removes selections from each line of a file. So there's a couple options in there. You can go through and check them out for yourself. But let me show you guys how I typically use it. Now, let me cut out this file right fast so you can see what we're actually doing. And press enter. And basically what the cut command will do, it'll allow you to pull out just a specific column if you wanted to. So let me show you guys this right fast. So if you type cuts and then -F, and then let's say we want to look at the first column, and then you want to specify the file name and press enter. And as you can see, it pulls that first column. And like I said, this is beneficial for like CSV files or TSV files, basically files that have a delimiter or tab data in it. And you can do the exact same thing. Like watch this, you could pull more than one column. So let's say you want to pull the first column and the third column. So you just put a comma in there and then the number 3, the next number that you want to pull, and press enter, and it'll pull the first column and then the last column, which was the third column. So that's how you quickly use the cut command. Now let me go down and clear again, and I'm gonna create another file right fast. So let's just type nano, and then let's create an employee file. So, and then we'll make this a TSV as well. So employee.tsv, press enter, and let me paste this text up in there right fast, and boom, this has names, departments, and salaries, and the data is tabbed out. So let's go down and save this right fast, and we can just cut out this file. One again, a new file, just press enter, and cool. Now I created this file to show you guys the awk command, which I won't go too deep into the awk command because it's a very complex command, but it's used as a pattern scanner and one-liner wizard, which allows you to extract fields, do quick math, and even generate reports on the fly. Awk is like very powerful. And first, let me show you the man page for awk, and let's press enter. And boom, it says pattern scanning and process language. Like I said, this is a very intuitive command. It's a lot of options in here. So I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm just going to show you the base, and you can build upon what you learn here to get a better understanding of the awk command, because you're not going to need it for the exam, like understanding all these different options and stuff. But it's good to know the awk command and learn it because it's a very powerful tool when looking through text, especially tab text. Now, let me show you guys a simple awk command. The first one I would typically show someone, and then you have to use these squiggly lines within single quotes. So squiggly lines. And like I said, I always put the first one and the last one just to make sure I cover my bases when I'm typing things out. And then you can type print in here and make sure you put a space in front and behind the word that you're typing, and then specify our file that we want to use the awk command against. So let's go down and press enter. And as you can see, it kind of prints out the file just like if we ran cat currently. But let's build upon it to show you guys the power of it. So let's say we want to just print the names. So there's an option you could do -F and then double quotes. And that's why I say it has a lot to the actual command in order to get things to show up the way you want it to show up. You know, you got to have a clear understanding of how it actually works. And let's say we want to print that first column. So let's put $sign and then 1. And let's go down and press enter there, and that will pull that first column. Now that's interesting, right? You know what I'm saying? When it comes to understanding, that's why I say you have to understand how it works, and you got to practice this stuff in order to get it to work. So let me show you guys how to look at multiple columns if we want to. It's similar to how we just use the cut command. You just put a comma in there, and let's say we want to look at the first and last column together. So the name and the salaries. So $3, press enter, and as you can see, it pulls in just those 2 columns that we want. Now let me show you guys something else. You can exclude the header, and like I said, you got to know these commands and you have to put it in the right format. So before the single quote, you want to put in or, and we want it greater than the first line. So let's put the right arrow, you know, that's a less than or equal sign, and then let's put 1 behind it, and let's put a space in there, and we want to remove that first line. That's essentially what we're doing. So like the name and salary, it'll remove that line. So just go down, press enter, boom, you'll see it starts with just the names. So that's what I meant by creating reports. You can create a report, a text file report if you want to, and you can also export this stuff out to another file. So let's say you want to just grab the names and salaries and put it into another text file by itself instead of having the department as well. Then you can write this out or pipe this out to add that text to a different file. Now, let me show you guys how to search for text. Let's say we want to see all the people that work in the IT department. So I'm going to remove this. And then I want to pull in the second column fast as well. So the name and that second column. Let's press enter. That way we can look at it. So let's say we only want to pull in the people that work in IT. So there is a way. You just go right in here and you have to put it within these single quotes. But you could put $sign and then 2. Then you have to put 2 equal signs and then put in double quotes what you're looking for, the search term that you're looking for. So we want to look for people in IT and press enter, and boom, it'll filter out and only show you the guys that IT as the department that they're assigned to. And so that's it. I'll show you guys on the ARC command. I don't want to go too deep because I could go all day showing you guys different ways to run this command, but none of that will be on the CompTIA Linux Plus exam. So this is just something I want you to practice and learn because the ARC command is beneficial. Now, let me show you another command that's super interesting. It's called the sed command. And let's just run man sed so you guys can see the man page stream editor for filtering and transforming text. Now, what most people use this for is a find and replace within a file. So let me show you guys that in the same file that we were just looking at. Let's cat out our employees.tsv file. And let's say everybody that works in IT will now fall under the AI department since they automated all the jobs in IT. So these guys will fall under the AI department. So let's change IT to AI. And so you can use the sed command for that. So sed and then single quotes. And this is kind of a slightly difficult command as well as far as remembering the information that you want to do. You want to put the text you want to search for. So it's IT, then put a / again. And then this is the text you want to replace it with. So we want to replace it with the AI command. Then you put a / there, and then you can put a single quote at the end of it and then specify the actual file. So employee.tsv and press enter. And as you can see, it found IT lines and made them AI. So super cool. It prints it out for you and everything. It just shows you that all of that has changed. And I'll just cover that as a base, but the sed command can get complex as well, just like awk, but this gives you a base understanding of how to actually use it. Now, let me go down and clear right fast because I'm gonna give you a little bit more complex ways of running these commands. Like for instance, we can start putting them all together by using the pipe. And what the pipe is a bore. This allows you to send the output from one command to another command to get different information out depending on what you're looking for. Like for instance, we're gonna use that fruits file that we created. So fruits.txt, and we want to pipe that into, let's say, unique. So let's use unique and then -c, and then also let's pipe it into sort. So this will pipe twice. This will use two other commands on that output. So let's type sort, and then I'll just use some different options. But what it'll do first is it'll sort the output of fruits text, and then it'll look for uniques and count those unique lines, and then it'll sort again. So let me show you guys the output right fast. Boom. And it sorted them by the amount of unique counts of that word. So as you can see, it's put in order based on the most to least. Now let's bring it in the awk command again. So awk and then -f and then our double quotes T, and then let's put our single quotes in there, and then also put our squiggly lines in there just so you guys can see. And what I want to do is print, let's say, the third column in our employees file. So let's type print in $3. That'll pull that. And then I also want to do a little bit of searching as well. So let's go right here in front. And this is typically how I write these commands, so I kind of remember how to put certain options all together. I know it's kind of a jumping back and forth thing, but let's search in the second column for IT. And then actually it should be AI now. So let's search for AI. Boom. And then put AI in there, put a space in there. And then let's just specify our employees TSV file. And then also let's pipe this into sort. So let's sort and then -n, press enter. And I might have changed those back to IT. So let me go back in here and change it to IT and C. Yeah, we did. So we put in the salary just for IT, and then we piped that in and sorted it from least to greatest. Now let me show you guys a redirect. So let's type sorts, and I'm just kind of making this stuff up on the fly, and I might need to put these files together so you guys can download it somewhere so you can put it on your system, so while you're going through the course you can kind of run these commands against these files that I have set up. And then let's pipe this into unique, and then also let's redirect the output of that to fruits. So this will redirect and create that file using the output from sorts and the unique, and drop that into a unique fruits text. So let's press enter, and you guys should see over here that it created another file. Let's see, fruits. Yeah, there we go. Unique fruits text. And I haven't been opening any of the files open because I wanted to show you guys in the command line, but it did create that file for us. I just wanted you to see that. And let's cat out that file right fast so you guys can see the difference. So let's cat out our fruits file first, and then let's cat out our unique fruits. As you see, it kind of combines it all up for us and outputs it to a separate file, and that is the redirect. Now let's say you want to append a file, so let's go sort, and then let's do fruits again, and then we could do a pipe and then let's do a redirect that appends to the end of a file. So let's go fruits, and let's put a space up in here up at the front, and then let's go with counts log. Let's name it .log, and let's press enter there, and it'll create another file for us. Let's cat it out right fast so you guys can see the fruits counts, and press enter, and boom, there we go. So it allows us to append to the file. And since that was a new file, obviously you didn't see the append because it created the file. But if you run this same command again, let's run it one more time, boom. And if we cat it out again, you'll see that it appends the new data to the bottom. So that's how the append actually works. It'll add text to the bottom of the file after the last line of text that's in there. Now, let me go down and clear right fast. Since we got all these files, one other thing I wanted to show you guys is just your text editors. I know I spoke about it earlier with the nano command, but sometimes you need to change content manually. And that's where like nano and vi or vim comes into play. And nano is like the simplest that I want to show you guys, and it's kind of like very beginner friendly. It's not that difficult to use. So let's go into our peoples.tsv file. So we can type nano and then our people SV file, go up in there. And let's say, oh man, we accidentally put Bob in there. Or let's say Bob was supposed to be Rob. So you can go in here and just change Bob to Rob, and you can save it. So in order to save it, all you have to do is hit Control S. You'll see it says wrote out 7 lines, and then hit Control X, and that will get you out of nano. So it's very simple, applications, very beginner friendly, and super simple for you to use. Now for more advanced users, you got vi and vim, and they give you power and speed, though the learning curve is very difficult. So now you've got the tools to dig into any file and pull out exactly what you need, or change it if necessary. And to be honest, we just unlocked the real power of the terminal. But next up, we're going to dive deeper into the Linux file structure and try to cover what's where, what it does, and how to keep it all organized. So I'll see you in the next one. All right, y'all. So this is a big one. Understanding the Linux file system is critical, because unlike Windows, where things are scattered across the C, D, and program files folder, Linux keeps things tight and organized in one unified hierarchy, starting at the root. And so everything starts there. So whether it's a device, a file, a process, or even a mount point, it all connects to that single root directory. And so let's clear right fast so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. And what I'm going to do is cd to root and press enter. And now we're in that root directory. And then also let's run a ls, and I'll use the option -L and press enter. And that way we can get a printout of all the directories under the file system. Now, the root directory, like I stated, is the top of the food chain. Every single file or folder in your system branches out from here. You could think of it like the trunk of a tree. And understanding what lives right under root will help you know where to look when configuring, troubleshooting, or managing a Linux system. Now, let me go through a couple of the important directories you should know. So for one, let's look at bins. Bin right here, and you should be able to see that it's linked to user bin. That's what that arrow is for. But this contains essential binary files like the ls command. So there's a binary file for that, or like the cat command that I showed you guys, the copy command, etc. They all have their binary files under this directory. Now, of course, our boot directory, that's what boots up the file system. And I'm gonna kind of skip around a little bit, but the sbin directory, this is for system level binary. So think about the reboot command or fdis. And I haven't got to those commands yet, but that's what you should think about when you look at the sbin directory, is system level binary files. Now, etc is another important directory, and this is where all your configuration files live. And trust me, you'll definitely spend a lot of time in the etc directory, tweaking settings or configuring applications that are running on your server. Now, the home directory right here, this is where all the user files live, and each user gets their own directory underneath there. So like I was telling you, my home directory is under home Josh, and each time you add a new user to the system, it'll create a user folder under here similar to on Windows. When you log in as a new user, it'll create a user directory that has the documents folder and all that stuff in their pictures and all that good stuff. Well, the same concept. And I believe Windows took that from Linux back in the day. Now, there is a home directory for the root account. And so that's where this is located. It's located under the root of the file system. There is a root directory. That is where the root user's home directory is. And it's separate from any normal user home directory on purpose. Now, another important directory is var. And var is super important. This contains variable data like logs, mail, and like the print spool files. But whenever you're troubleshooting, you definitely want to go into var because there is the log directory underneath var when you're troubleshooting an issue. Now, there is one called the temp directory right here. This is important. And whenever you reboot the system, this folder is actually wiped. So you use this directory as anything, temporary. And when the system reboots, it'll clear it out. Now, there is a user directory. I want to show you guys this right fast. This is also important. It contains user installed applications, as well as libraries, documentation, and more. And subdirectories inside the user directory mirror the structure under the root of the file system. And then we got our two libs. So you guys should understand that that's basically libraries. So you got your library folder and then library 64. And now let's talk about devices, because this is where this directory comes in. It's called dev. So it stands for devices. And like I said earlier, everything on the Linux operating system is looked at as a file. And so all your device files like drives, USBs, and all that stuff are under this directory. Now, when we talk about mounting stuff, there is a mount directory and a media directory. I'm going to show you guys both of them. In most mod desktop Linux, this media directory is used to auto mount external drives. So if you plug in a USB external drive or like a flash drive or something, it'll automatically mount it under media. And so that's where you can access your files. And also, like I said, a modern desktop environment, it'll pop up with an image or something saying you can click on your file, and open up that folder, but it's mounted under media typically. And then also it'll show up here, kind of like this CD drive is here. This is the CD drive that I use to install Rocky Linux. It'll mount that file system to your system and list it under here. Now, the mount directory is pretty much reserved for when you're mounting drives manually. And you want drives to, let's say, auto mount to your system. Then you want to create directories under mount and then set up your drives where you want them to mount. And that's just a centralized location. You can obviously mount a drive anywhere within the file system, but just to keep things organized, that's what the mount is for. Now, Linux systems follow the file system hierarchy standard, or FHS. And this is what defines where things should go. Not all distros follow it exactly, but it gives consistency so that once you learn this layout, you'll be able to navigate any Linux box without feeling lost. Now, what I want you guys to do is use the cd command and start at the top in the root of your file system, and then just ls to look around throughout the file system. You can dive into the etc directory. Just don't mess with the files or modify the files in any way, because you can easily mess up the system. But I want you guys to at least explore it and look at it. And then you can use the cat command to cat out the information in those files. And let me quickly do some of that right fast. So let's go to our etc directory under roots, and let's press enter, and then let's ls-l this directory so we can see what's in here. As you can see, this is all our applications. I'm gonna go through some of this stuff. Like it has Samba on here, at least the client, your resolve.config for DNS, protocols, profiles, pretty much a whole bunch of files, network manager, LVM, some of this stuff you won't see in your etc directory, because a lot of these applications or applications that are only included on a system with a desktop environment. Like for instance, Firefox is on here, within this directory on the etc, cups that may not be necessarily installed on your server edition of Linux. But yeah, just explore through a lot of these directories and just have fun. You can't really mess it up by just listing out what's in a directory and CDing and moving around, change directories to different directories and run that ls command. And that's the beauty of Linux, the unified structure. Everything connects under root. And once you understand that, you can figure out where everything is. All right, so you've unlocked the blueprint of a Linux system. Like I said, this is foundational knowledge that will serve you everywhere, from scripting to troubleshooting to security audits. All right, y'all. So in this lesson, we're diving into one of the core fundamentals of Linux security, and that's users, groups, and permissions. So if you want to manage access and lock down your system, this is where it all starts. This stuff is essential for the Linux Plus exam and for working in production. Now, just to start off, every person or service using a Linux system is assigned a user account. You've got standard users, the powerful root user, and systems accounts running background services. And just to break this down, the user data is stored in a file under etc called passwd. And I'll show you guys that right now. And I'm gonna use sudo to run it, the cat command, and then we're going to go into etc and then passwd and press enter and type in our sudo password. And boom, there are all the accounts on the system. Now, a lot of these that are here already are service accounts. And then there is also the root account, which is up here at the top. That's like one of the first accounts that are created. But then all the other services that are installed on here, they all have service accounts, and you can check all those out from this location. And one other thing, you can check out your personal account. It should be closer to the bottom. This is your personal account. So mine was Josh, and it typically has an ID or user ID of 1000. That's the first account that's typically created after all the service accounts and all that good stuff is created during the installation. Then whatever account you create during the installation, it will create it, and the ID will be 1000. And then also, let me show you guys where the passwords for each one of these accounts are stored, because they're stored in a text file as well, but they are securely hashed. Let me show you guys that right fast as well. And it's under our etc directory as well, but it's called the shadow file. And it's called the shadow file. And so let's press enter so you guys can see it, but this is the passwords. Like for instance, this is my account password right here, but it's encrypted obviously. And all these service accounts, they were created by the system. They're all listed in here as well. And you'll be able to see all of the accounts on here. Like for instance, this is the root account hash. Now let's get into how to actually create and manage your users. We'll start off by just creating a user. Let me go down and clear the screen, but there is a command called user adds. And let's go down and press man and type user add so you guys can see what this is for. And the application is user add. It creates a new user or update default new user information. Basically what this command is for. So you can go through and check out all the options. It's a whole bunch of options, but I'll show you just some of the basics that'll get you by for right now. And you can learn about those other options that you have. But let's go down and create a new user, and we'll just name it John. So user add, and you have to use sudo for this. But then let's type John and press enter, and that creates that account. As long as you don't see any errors, then that user account was created successfully. Now, a couple of things are done when you run this command. It will create the home directory for that user. So if we ls/home, and you'll see a folder for John now. So create that home directory for John, and then also set up the default shell for the account, which we only have one shell on here, which has been bash. And so now that you have the account created, you need to set a password, because right now John can't log into his account. So in order to do that, once you create the account, you type sudo password passwd, and then we need to specify John and press enter. And this will allow you to set a password for it. So I'll just set something super simple and type it in twice, and we're good to go. So we have a password set for account. Now, let's say you need to add this user to a group. Like for instance, there's what they call a will group, which is the administrators group. It gives them sudo access. And so let me clear the screen right fast and show you guys how to use this. But there's another command that I want to show you guys, and that's user mods. So this allows you to modify a user account. So just check it out right there. You can check out the options that you can use. And basically that's what it means, modify a user. So let's type sudo and user mod. Let's add John to the will group. And before I do that, let me back off right fast. And let me show you guys the groups that John is a part of. And so all you have to do is type groups and then John, and that'll show you the groups that it's in. So when we run this user mod command, you'll see that it adds it to that other group right fast. So user mod, and we need to type sudo in front of it. So user mod and then -A for pin, and then capital G for group. And then we want to add it to our will group. Then We want to specify the account that we're adding to that group, and that is John. So let's go down and press enter, and that'll add that user to that group. So let's press up arrow and look at the groups for John again. And boom, you'll see that John is a part of the Will group now. And you can check out my account right fast, or you can check out your own account. Like this is Josh. So I'm gonna check out the groups for Josh, and I'm in the Will group as well. That's why I'm able to type sudo commands. And that was specified when we installed the operating system. Now, in some cases, you need to find out what the user ID is for a user. You can use the ID command. So ID and just specify right fast, and we can figure out what the ID is for John. And this is our user ID. This is our group ID for John. And then there's the group right there. And then also the Will group right here. So that gives you the ID for all of those different groups and users. And let me show you guys how to look at account details for John. There's another command in here that you can use, and we're going to run the man on it. Let's see if it even has a man page. Should, and press enter and get entries from name service switch library. So I'm going to quit that, but I want to show you guys what it'll do with a user account. So if you type and then password, so PASSWD, and then the account that we want to look at, press enter, it'll get us that information as well. You can see a little bit more information for that account. So John, that's the user ID, that is the home directory, and then that is the shell that's assigned to that user. So that's super cool. Now, let's say we just fired John. We need to lock his privileges right now. Well, there's a way to use the sudo user mod and then -L and then specify the account you want to lock. And we want to lock John. So let's go down and press enter. He is fired. So right now we didn't delete any of his stuff. We didn't delete his home directory or anything. We just locked the account so he cannot log into it. And let's say your manager comes up to you and say, hey, we rehired John. He wasn't supposed to get fired after all. So can you unlock his account? Well, all you have to do is type the user mod command again. So user mod and then -U. And a lot of this stuff is kind of self-explanatory as far as the options that you type in there to do certain things against accounts. Like the lock is a capital L, the unlock is a capital U. And so let's go and press enter, and that will unlock the account for us. Now let's say they came back to you and say, yeah, we meant to fire John. And this time I want you guys to delete his account and delete anything that he has access to. But I want you to keep his home directory because he may have some files in there we may need to access at a later date. And so we type sudo, and it's another command called user del, and this allows you to delete an account. So that basically means user delete. And then you can specify that account. So let's go down and press enter, and that will delete that account for us. So let me go down and create the account again right fast. So let's go user adds, and we're gonna run into a little bit of an error because there is a home directory already there. So it says a warning, the home directory home John already exists. User add, it's not copying any files from the skeleton directory into it because it basically looks at it like it's owned by another account. Now let's run GETENT, and I just want to make sure that that directory is assigned back to the John account. And I typed it incorrectly. I always mess that up, but let's press enter. And yeah, it looks like it overtook that home directory. So now if we want to delete it while also deleting the home directory, all we have to do is use that user del. And then you have to use another option, which is -R, and this will remove the home directory for John. And so if we ls our home directory again, just to see, and you'll see that John directory is gone. Now let's go through and show you guys groups and permissions right fast. And I just mainly use the groups that were built in, previously just to show you guys how to set up accounts. But let's say we want to create some groups now to manage a bunch of users. Well, let me show you guys how to do that right fast. So all you have to do is type sudo group add, and then let's just name it devs. So we're going to create a group called devs, and let's press enter, and that will create that new group. And let me show you guys something right fast. This is something I forgot to show you guys, but if you run sudo cat and then under our etc directory, this is really what I wanted to show you guys. If you go into here under group, there is a group file in here, and this will list out all the groups on the system. So as you can see, that's that one we just created, the devs group. So the DEVS, and then these are all the other groups that are for like services and the root account, and there's a Josh account. Like every account that's created, it creates a group for that account as well. But I want you guys to actually see that. So let's go down and add our test user back. Let's go up in here and user add John back to the system. And what we want to do is add John to our developers group. And so we can use that user mod again. So let's type that in, and then -A, capital G, and then we want to add John to the devs group, and that's his account. So let's press enter. It'll add John to the devs group, and we could just type groups, and let's check out what John is in now. And since we deleted John and added it back, we didn't add it back to the will group. So that's why it's only showing that devs group. And let's run this other command right fast, against group, and press enter, and it'll give us all the information about it right there. And you can see under dev that John is added to that group. So that's what we're looking for. Whenever an account is added, it basically goes into this group directory and add that user to that group. And that's the same thing, let's say, with the will group. So if we scroll up here, you'll see Josh is part of the will group. And if I added John back there, you'll see his name next to that as well. Let me clear the screen right fast, because now I want to get into file ownership and group permissions when it comes to files. So let's run the ls command. And I got a couple of text files under here, tsv files, log files, that I wanted to look at right fast so you guys can understand what the permissions mean. And actually, let's just pick one specifically. Let's just look at the notes.txt. And so let's run the up arrow again, and then let's just look at that one specifically. So let's press enter. And actually, let's clear, and that way we can get it up to the top. Boom. And we can look at this one file. Now, I just kind of want to break it down for you. So right now, the owner is Josh. The group is Josh, because this file was actually created by Josh. And so this is the owner of the file, and this is the group of the file. And let's say you want to change the ownership of that file. Well, you use the chown command. So let's type sudo chown, and we can specify the user that we want to own that file. And it doesn't matter if it's under someone else's account or if it's someone else's home directory. You can change the ownership, you can change the group. As long as you can make those changes to it, and you can cut off access to that file from the user that created it. It's crazy. But we're not gonna change the group, because Josh will still be under that group, so we'll still have access to it, but Josh won't own it anymore. And so let's go down and change it right fast. So let's go notes and press enter, and then let's run that ls. On the notes again, you'll see John is now the owner of this file. And let's say we want to change the group. It's the exact same thing. You can run a chown, and what you can do is delete out the name, and you can put a colon in there, and then the devs group. And what this represents is the group. So you put that colon in there, because typically, let's say you want to change the owner and the group, then you would put John as the owner, and then you put the colon, and then you put devs. But you can run it without the user, and that's basically saying don't change the user, but we want to change the group. So let's go down and press enter, and then let's ls that file again, and you'll see that John is the owner now, dev is the group. Now let me break down the file permissions, and let me clear right fast so you guys can see a little bit better. When we run through this, I want to have one line up there so you don't get confused. Now, Linux permissions are divided into 3 sets, and it starts at read. So the owner, these are the owner permissions right here. Now, this is just a placeholder, especially on files, because it changes based on what type of file it is. Like if it's folder, then it'll have a D here in front of this, meaning directory. And that's just a flag for the system to understand that that is a directory. And this dash means that this is a file. But this is where the permissions actually start. So this is the owner's permission. So the owner has read and write permissions for this file. And if we count 3 right here, this is the group. And so they have read access. And then this is the world. This is a 3rd set of permissions. This is the world, and it has read as well. And each set of flags, which I know you guys can't see the other flag, but it's read, write, execute. So that's essentially how the permissions are set up. And so right now, based on these permissions, the owner can read and write, the group can read it, and the world or other can read it as well. So anyone on this machine can read this file. Now, let's say we want to give John execute permissions. Well, all you have to do is type chmod, and I forgot I am under my Josh account, so I have to type sudo. So let's type sudo chmod, and then you want to change the user permissions, and you want to add execution to the notes file. So that's the way I kind of break things out. I do it all through my head. It's almost like a sentence when I'm typing it out. That way I know what to actually do. So whenever it's a plus, you're adding something. Whenever it's a minus, it's a negative. And I'll show you guys how to remove it in a second as well. And so let's ls this directory again, or that file again, and you'll see that the owner now has execute permissions on that file. Now, let's say you want to add some permissions to the group. Well, the same way. So if you type sudo chmods and then group, all you have to do is type G, and then let's add write permissions to this group for this file. So let's go down and press enter, and then let's ls again, the note file, and you'll see that the group has right permissions now. And let's say you want to remove it. Let's say you accidentally did that. You only want to give them right permissions for a certain amount of time and you need to remove it. Well, same command, but instead of the plus, which is adding, then you want a minus, which is subtracting right permissions from that file for the group with the G. So let's press enter, and then let's ls again. Boom, you'll see that the right permissions are now gone. Now there's a way to set all the permissions for a particular file in one swoop, and that's using chmod as well, but you can use the octal format. And let me show you guys that right fast. There's what they call an octal format, and it's a certain number that means certain things. So 7, and I'm gonna just type them one at a time so you guys can see. So 7 means read, write, and execute. And then the number 4 means read by itself. And the number 5 means read and execute, but without writes. And then 6 is read and write. And let me show you guys how to use it. So if you type sudo chmod, and we'll just use the example of 754, and the 7, if you remember, is read, write, execute. So the first one, that's the first group, that's for the owner. The second number is for the group. So the 5 is read and execute, and then the 4 is just read, which will really not make any changes there, but it will make some changes here with that 5 because the 5 is read and execute. So you'll see the change when we get to the end of it and we actually run the command. So let's go notes, text, press enter, and then let's ls that file again. And you'll see that it changed it to, as far as the group goes, it changed it to read and execute. And then also it didn't make any changes here on the user or the owner of the file. And it also didn't make any changes on the world. And so as long as you understand those numbers, then you could quickly set the permissions on a file using that octal format. And just so you understand, this is the same for directories as well. But like I said, if you look at directories, like I'm gonna do a ls-la, you'll see the difference. It has a D in front of it. It's like a designator or a flag for distinguishing this as a directory from a file. And you can make those changes the exact same way as what we did using that octal format, which is super simple. Now, one thing I didn't show you guys is how to connect to that account. You can obviously log out and log in to get into John. And actually, let me set the password again for it. So let's go sudo passwd, and we want to set a password for John. So let's go and type in something real quick. And so you can obviously, since we're on a desktop environment, you will have to log out, log back in as John. I'm gonna show you guys how to do it from the terminal. So if you type su-John, this will allow you to log in as John. So all you have to do is type in the password for John, and you'll see that we're in John right now within the terminal. And let me go down clear so you guys can see. And let me show you guys a simple command that I didn't cover, I should have, but who am I? And this will specify who you are, and you are logged in as John. And so in order to log out of John, you could just type exit. That'll take you back to Josh, and you'll see that I'm in the main account that I created. Now, one thing I also didn't show you guys is how to remove a user from a group. And this is beneficial as well. Let's say a user is part of a group and you want to restrict them from getting into a shared directory that's owned by that group. Now that they've moved to a different department or something like that, let me go down and add John back to our will group by using user mod. And let's type in user mod and then -A and then capital G. And we want to add John to the will group. So let's press enter there, and let's run groups, John, and press enter. And you'll see we're ported at will group. And it's a different command that I learned from the beginning, and I'm gonna show you guys that. So it's G password. So passwd and then -D, and then we want to remove a specific account, which is John, from the group, and press enter. And that'll remove user John from group will. And it's the same thing with dev. You could put dev in here. You can run the same account and remove John from devs and press enter, and that will remove him from the group. And so go down and go through your system and practice adding accounts, adding users to groups, modifying passwords, logging in as that new user, giving them privileges, and seeing if you can run, let's say, some updates on the system or any other type of command using that new account that you created. And make sure you don't forget to use that who am I command. That way you can make sure what account you're actually in while you're running those commands. And also get used to managing access. It's one of the main jobs as a Linux admin. And like I said in the intro of this video, Linux security starts with solid user and group management. So knowing how to assign the right permissions, restrict access, and give out just enough power is how you protect your system. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Now that you've explored the Linux file structure, let's talk about how to pull system information. Now, as a system admin or IT professional, you need to know how to quickly answer questions like how much RAM does the system have? What kind of CPU is running? And how long has it been online? Being able to get these answers from the terminal is a major skill that'll serve you well in the exam as well as on the job. Now, let's start with a simple one, and that is uptime. And what you'll get is how long the system has been running. And you also see how many users are logged in and the system load average. And it's a quick way to tell if a system has recently rebooted or if it's been up for months, which can actually be a red flag if updates haven't been applied. Now, let's say you need to check the processor. There is a command called lscpu. And so let's run that one right fast, and I'll explain the output as we see it. And let me scroll back up to the top right fast so you guys can get some good information about what's actually being shown. Now, this command gives you the core count architecture and the CPU family. And you'll also see things like virtualization support and CPU megahertz. It's one of the best ways to get CPU details without digging through multiple commands. Now let's go down clear right fast because I want to show you another command, which is the free command. And this is the way you look up system RAM and also swap. And so let's quickly run this right fast so you guys can see. But I'm gonna just run free by itself. And as you can see, when you run it without any flags or options, it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. I know this system has 8 gigs of memory, so that is in bytes. So let's go and look at it in gigabytes. You can type free and then -H and press enter, and you'll see it in a better human readable format. That's easier to read right there. So it's 7.5 gigabytes is the total amount of memory, the amount used, the amount free, shared, buffer cache, and available. And then you can also see these stats on swap. So your swap total size is 3.2, the 0 is used, and you got that amount free as well. And like I said, that -H just makes it easier on the eyes by showing values like megabytes and gigabytes instead of the raw bytes. And so this command is perfect when troubleshooting system slowdowns or checking if you're running low on memory. Now let's talk about hard drives, and it's a couple commands you can actually use, but I'm gonna just focus in on one, which is the df command. And I know this is on every Linux distro. That's why I want to stick with this one. Let's go down clear and let me show you guys df-h, and I'll start using that H so you can see things in a human readable format. That way it's easier to read. So let's go down and press enter. And as you can see, it'll find all the drives that are connected to the system, and it'll give you the sizes and then also the mount point. And I'll go through each column, just show you guys. So the file system, the size, what's used, the available amount of space that's free, and the percentage that's free, and the percentage that's used, and then the mount point. And so as you can see, this is our root directory. This is the whole operating system. This is where root is mounted. This is the full drive size. Now, some of this other stuff you can ignore, like temporary file system, dev temporary file system. These are actual drives like this right here, the dev mapper. And then this is your boot directory, dev VDA1, your boot directory. This is another temporary file system. And then this is the actual DVD drive that's connected to the system. Now, let's say you want to track down certain things that are taking up space. So I'm going to run the du command. I'm gonna show you guys this right fast. So let's run du-sh and then store. And this is running under my home directory. So it'll give you some information. It's not that much because I don't have much on the system in the home directory. And actually, let's run it against the etc directory. Let's say you're looking for how much something is taking up or what's taking up the most space within a directory. So let's go under, etc, and then let's look at everything under there. And this will break down the size of every directory in there. I think this goes one level down. Yeah. And then certain files you don't have permission to, but that's fine. Just wanted to show you guys that it'll list out the space used, and you can narrow it down based on the sizes of the actual directories. And also let's run it on root. So that way we can see what's going on there. And I forgot, we're going to run into a bunch of issues because of the permissions. And the way to get around that is you can run it using sudo, and that'll give you all the information if you want to, and have to type in your sudo password, which I haven't went through it yet, but yeah, that'll give you all the information for each one of those directories and what's taking up the most space. So right now the home directory has 3.2 gigs. What else is taking up a lot? So the user directory has a lot of gigs in it, 4 gigs. The run directory has 1.2 gigs. That's pretty much it. Boot directory 312. That's about right. etc 29 megs. So And so, like I said, this is a way of narrowing down space issues. And let's say you need to clean up, then this is where you start. I personally use these commands all the time when my logs or backups start taking up too much space on the system. And I tend to clean things up while going through and looking at this information using these commands. Now, let me go down and clear right fast because I want to show you guys another option that can get you some system information, and that is list hardware. So LSHW. So let's run that right fast. I'll give you the information on it. Let's actually go back up to the top right fast, but this will list all your hardware details. And I'm scrolling through this thing, just trying to get up to the top of it. But this pulls in a lot of information, you know what I'm saying, on everything. It's got your CPU information there. And it's a warning, you should run this program as super user. You can run it as super user, you can run it without. But when you run it as super user, you won't run into any permission issues by using sudo. But it's super verbose. So you might want to narrow it down to something else. Like there's a couple options. So actually, let me go back down to the bottom and run a command again. And you can type -short and press enter. And it'll give you the information in a shorter format. So you'll see how it condenses it. It gives you the description, it gives you the class, it gives you the device and the hardware path. That's an easy way to clean up the output. Now, you can also look at different classes. So like, for instance, you can take the short off and you can put class there, and you can look at the memory specifically. So let's press enter, and that'll pull in memory information. So just the memory information. So it's like a filter. You can filter by that class. And this is the column of the class right here, if you guys couldn't tell, but where it says input, bus, volume. If you go up in here, you'll find one that says memory. Yeah, so that's what it pulled in. And yeah, here's the title of the column as well. So type in bus, you know what I'm saying, for the motherboard. You can type in inputs. So it's all depending on what you want to see. You can filter it out by doing this. Just press enter, and that pulls in all the inputs. So super simple command and very beneficial. Now, a lot of this information can be given to you from a small application that's built into the system that refreshes every couple of seconds. So let me clear the screen and I'll show you guys this right fast. Let's actually go to the man page for the top. That way you can see what it is, but it displays Linux processes. And so this is almost like a system monitor. Like on Windows, you can open up the system monitor, see how well your CPU is running, how much memory is being used, and it updates as you go through it. So let's go down and open it up right fast and run top. Press enter, and I'll open up the application. And you guys will see it in a couple seconds. See how it just updated? I think it's like a couple seconds. It'll update, and it'll tell you what's using like the most CPU, the most memory, the amount of time, the command that's actually using that, and then the actual user it's associated with, because each process is tied to a user. And here is the process ID. It creates a process ID for everything. And I know I skipped up here at the top, but this is a lot of your CPU information, memory information, swap. And that's why I say a lot of those commands that we ran earlier to look at memory or to look at the CPU, you can get a lot of that information here. You know what I'm saying? You got your buffer cache, available memory, all that good stuff. Now, a better version of this command is htop. And actually, let me see if does it have a manual for htop? Let's run it. Nope, it don't. But anyway, let's just run htop. Htop is the newer version of top, so to speak. It gives the information a little bit better of a format. And it looks like we don't have htop on here. So let's type sudo dnf install htop. And let's see if it's there and we can actually get it on here right fast. Most distros have that on here. And I know that htop comes on Ubuntu by default. And I forgot it didn't come on Rocky. But let's go down and type htop now that we have it on there. And like I said, it's just a better cleaned up version of top. And I know that comes on Ubuntu. So if you're using Ubuntu in your lab, which is what I recommended, then htop is there by default. But as you can see, it just looks super clean right there. You got your input output over here, your main. You can filter this stuff. You can, which right now is sorted based on the amount of CPU usage. You can do the same thing for memory, like what's using the highest memory, what's using the highest CPU. You can sort it by the user. And that's why I say it's a whole lot better with htop, seeing this information. And then down here at the bottom, you do have a bunch of options. I'm not going to go through them all. They're not that difficult to use. You want to check them out for yourself. But like, for instance, you got your help. You can hit F1, that'll take you to help. You can, one thing I've used a lot is tree, and you can actually click on this with the, I forgot, you can click on it with the mouse. So see, by clicking the tree, it changed the commands view into a tree format. And so it looks at the top level process and all the processes underneath it, as you can see. So SVN audit D, and then you got these child processes underneath it, and they all have their process number as well. So that's super cool, right? And you can just switch back if you want to by hitting that list again. That'll get you back there to where it's out of there. But you got sorting by, you can look at your nice, and I haven't covered all that yet. You can kill processes and all that stuff. You can search for specific processes as well. But that's all I wanted to show you for this actual command. You can hit Q and that'll close it out for you. Just like top, you can hit Q and it'll close out. Now, let me show you guys one more command. This is how you see the kernel version, the architecture, and more about the system that you're on. And if you want to go deeper, you can actually check out a file called XK0-005 release. That'll give you the distribution version and a little bit more information about the system that you're on. So let me show you guys uname right fast. So let's type uname. I typically run it with the A option, press enter. It'll give you all the information about it. As you can see, the kernel version is right here. So you'll get the hang of it once you start seeing it, but this is the kernel version. So when most people say, oh, I'm running 5.14, you know what I'm saying? This is what they're talking about, the actual kernel of the Linux kernel of this system. And then also, like I was saying, you can check out a specific file under etc. So if we type the cat command and under our etc directory, there is the s-release file and press enter. And it'll give you a lot more information about it. As you can see, this is the distro. So we're using Rocky Linux. This is the version 9.5, Blue Onyx, ID Rocky, ID like Rails, Synapse Fedora, and just some more information about the system. I'm not going to go through it all, but that'll give you everything about the actual system. That is a file you want to at least learn so you can understand what's on your system. And you'll find that file on pretty much all Linux distros. Now, I recommend you go through and practice all these commands that I showed you guys a few seconds ago. So try uptime, lscpu, free, dfdu, top, uname, and also check out the OS release and explore what each one of these tell you. And also practice identifying memory usage, CPU type, available disk space, and your distro version, for instance. And the more comfortable you are with these, the faster you'll be at diagnosing issues and preparing systems for new installs or audits. And so now you can tell what your system is running, how it's running, and where resources are being used. And this knowledge helps you catch problems before they happen and confidently manage systems under pressure. So next video, we're jumping into Linux networking so you can connect systems, troubleshoot, and lock things down the smart way. See you in the next one. All right, now let's dive into one of the most critical parts of any system, and that's networking. And if your server can't connect to the internet or other systems on the network, it might as well be a brick, because networking isn't just about getting online. It's about knowing how to troubleshoot, secure, and optimize connections, especially in production environments. Now, let me go down and clear our terminal right fast. And I want to start out with the IP command. And this command shows you your network interfaces and assigned IPs. And so let me show you guys how to do that. But if you type IP and then A and press enter, and this will give you all the information about your system as far as networking goes. Now, if we look at this, is the main interface that connects the system to the internet. It typically has a name like this, like ENP6S10, or you may see something different on Ubuntu. It may say something different, but it should have a name like this. And you also should see an IP address that's on the network that you're on. Like I have a 10.10.0 network. And so I received an IP address from the DHCP server of 142. And just ignore up here. I just want to at least point this out to you. This is a loopback address. There's no need to really pay attention to that. All you have to do is worry about the active networking devices on your network. And then also sometimes you may see like a wireless LAN 0. It'll say like WLAN 0. And this is if you have a wireless interface on the system. Now, let's say you only want to look at the active devices, and I'll show you guys that right fast. You can type IP and then link, press enter, and it'll give you the links that are active on your system, which is only 2. Just like we showed up here, it condenses the information. It even shows you the MAC address of that actual device that's on your network. Now, in older systems, you might still see like ifconfig, but most modern systems, IP is the way to go. And the ifconfig is just like the ipconfig command on Windows, which is obsolete now on most Linux distros. Now, just like on Windows, there is the ping command. I want to show you at least this as well. And it's just a simple way of checking your internet connection as well as DNS resolution. So let's clear the screen again and just run it right fast. I'll just run it against Google google.com. So this is a way to just check if you have internet connection and all that good stuff. So let's stop that. And what I did was hit Control-C to actually stop it from running. That's one thing on Linux that's different with the ping command from Windows. Windows, if you type ping and then a URL or something like that, it'll ping it like 4 times or 5 times and it'll stop. On Linux, it will ping and continue to ping until you tell it to stop. And so you just hit Control-C to stop it. And you can also do things like bypass DNS by typing in actual DNS server. So this is 8.8. So let's ping that one right fast just to see. You can get some information there or replies from that IP address. Now there is a traceroute command that you can install on Rocky Linux. You have to install it, and that's the same with that ifconfig. You will have to install it because they remove those tools, and maybe they're on here. I'm not 100% sure, but most of the time they're not on here anymore. Oh no, ifconfig is on here. Let's run ifconfig, and it shows in the same format as you've seen with the IPA. But this command is like obsolete. It's the same command that you would use on Windows, like ipconfig. Instead, it's IP is ifconfig over here on Linux. And you also got your loopback address there. And to be honest, I always like the way this one looked because it's organized. It's a little bit organized better. So you see your IP address, your net mask, your broadcast, and everything is tabbed out. So it's just a little bit cleaner than the IPA command where it's, I don't know, it just looks a little weird the way they have it set up. Now also, let me check and see if traceroute is here right fast. And yeah, it's not in there. You got to install it. So I'm not going to install it, but yeah. And actually, let's go down and install it right fast. So let's type DNF and then install traceroutes. And then let's also install some utilities. So I like the utils. This is something I've always installed. Let's see if we can get this on here right fast. First, type in our sudo accounts. Let's go down and get both of those installed. And traceroute is good. So looks like it didn't have to install dig. Dig is on here to bind utilities, but I really like dig. So let's go traceroute and then let's just look up google.com. Press boom, and that'll basically perform a traceroute and give you the path that your computer takes in order to get to google.com, so to speak. Now, you guys know I have a website, KeepItTechie. Let me go down and clear right fast, but let me show you guys how to dig. So you could dig and find out what the IP address of a domain by just running a dig command. So let's run KeepItTechie.com and press enter. And that'll dig and basically give you information on that actual server. And as you can see, it has a bunch of IP addresses on here because it's running through Cloudflare. So that's what those responses are from Cloudflare. But you can do the same thing for whatever domain you want to look at. So we can go back and look at google.com and get an IP address for that. And you get to go. Now, there's another command I wanted to show you guys, and that is the hostname CTL command. This will allow you to change the system name. Like, for instance, you see mine is localhost. And I think when you install Rocky, it doesn't allow you to set the username. It just automatically puts localhost. But let's say you want to change it to a host name that'll be recognizable on your network. You can use that hostname CTL. So let's man out that command and press enter. And yeah, it controls the system hostname. So let me show you guys how to actually change it right fast. And before I change it, I'm gonna show you guys that you can print out your host name. It's stored under your host file under etc. So there is a host file under there. Similar to Windows, you know how you have a host file on Windows is somewhere in System 32, somewhere, I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can, you know how you can modify that information in there. It's really just a resolver. Well, that's the same here, host, and this is the name of our system. And the way you change it is hostname, CTL, and then you can set dash hostname and then specify which one to name it. And we'll just do Rocky 9 and press enter. And then you can run hostname CTL, and this will give you information about the system. As you can see, the hostname now is set to Rocky 9 instead of localhost. And then also one thing you can do is log out, and actually let me log out of the system right fast. And typically what you do on a server, you just type exit and that'll log you out of the system. But I'm gonna log out right fast and then log back into it. And we should have the correct name now as far as the system. So let's run that and let's zoom in right fast. And also we ain't even got to look, but it'll say, we ain't got to run that command again, but it'll say Rocky 9 right there. That lets you know that it changed the host name, because What it's showing here is the person that's logged in as well as the host name at the host name. So Rocky9. Now, let's say you want to manage your network or you want to set IP addresses and all that stuff. Now, one thing I want to show you in Rocky is NMTUI. This is an awesome tool that'll help you guys. So NMTUI, and actually let's go to the man page right fast so you guys can see what it is. And it's a text user interface for controlling network manager. And so that's typically how you would do it if you're connected to a server. So NMTUI, press enter, and I'll open it up, and this will allow you to manage your connection. And you can do this if you're like logged in SSH, and this is all Rocky based. So rail based. You can use this command. This actual application is on here, and you can edit your current connection. This will pull up the interface. You can go in there and you can set your IP addresses as well as security. IP4 is automatic right now. IP version 6 is automatic. You can actually show the information there if you have it set statically. But let's go down and hit cancel. I just wanted to at least show you guys that you can use this. And all I'm using is the up and down arrows. You can use tab and all that stuff. Like for instance, I hit tab to go over there, and then let's go back, and then you can activate a connection. If you have another network cord on there and it's not activated, you can activate that cord there. You can also set the system host name as well from here. Just to show you guys, you can go in and change it that way as well. So I'm gonna cancel that. And then radio, this is for Wi-Fi. So let's go back and let's go down and quit that. But that is a simple way of changing your IP information on your system, if it's rail-based or Rocky-based. Now, when Ubuntu, it uses a application called NetPlan, and you basically have to put the configuration in a YAML file and then restart networking, and that'll set the IP address for you. And I've done plenty of videos showing people how to do it. So just search my channel if you want to get a breakdown of how to actually set a static IP address on Ubuntu-based systems or Debian-based systems. But it's another command I want to show you guys. So if we type nmcli, and we can look at our connection. So I'm going to do connection show and press enter, and it'll show us our connections right there, our connection devices. And another one is device show. So I want to show you guys that as well. And I'm just showing you guys so you can get information about your devices using another command. This is nmcli, and this will give you the information from the command line. So you can go through and look at all this information, and it opens it up using less. And so you can go through and get all the information about your system, like all your DNS servers, the domain that you're on, the hardware ID or MAC address, the MTU, the state, the connections, all that stuff. So let's go on and press Q to get out of that. And also, if you're running into issues, then you may need to restart networking. You can run like systemctl, and actually you have to use sudo for this. So sudo systemctl, and then restart network manager, and press enter, and it'll restart our networking on our system. And let's say you just don't have a good internet connection, you want to get a different IP or try to get a different IP, most likely the DHCP server is going to give you the exact same IP. But that's just a way of quickly troubleshooting the internet. Let's say you're running into issues. You can reset the internet by restarting the networking. Now, Rocky Linux uses, or Rail uses Firewall D instead of UFW. Now, I've done plenty of videos showing you guys UFW. Just check out those videos. UFW is very simple to use, but since we're on a Rail system, Rail-based system, then I want to show you guys how to manage it using Firewall D. By default, most Linux distros don't come with the firewall enabled, so you have to enable it. So let me show you guys this right fast. So systemctl, and then enable, and then -- now, and then what we want to enable is Firewall D, and press enter, and that will enable the firewall on the system. And now let's go down and check the firewall state. You can check to see if it's active and running. You can run sudo firewall -cmd and then -- states. Press enter, and it'll check the state of the actual firewall. And as you can see, it's running on the system. And so right now it's blocking every port. By default, when you turn on the firewall, there's zero trust on any of these ports. So if you have services running on there, like a web server or something like that, or SSH, for instance, if you're connected to the system via SSH, it's going to block those ports. Those ports are not open. You have to go in and physically activate those ports. And so let me show you guys how to do that using the firewall command. So it's sudo firewall cmd, and then we can add a service. They do have services you can add. Basically, these are main applications that you would run on a server. Like for instance, there's one for HTTPD for a web server, but I'm just focused on SSH. You type it in this way, you put equals SSH, that's the service we're adding. And then you want to put -- permanent, because it will not keep it there if you don't use permanent. If you reboot the system, it'll reset those changes as far as that port. So you have to put that -- permanent in order for it to stay on the system after reboot. So Let's press enter. And it looks like I typed it in incorrectly. So sometimes, you make mistakes. That's why I want you guys to practice. You have to put an equals there because that's the service name. So let's go and press enter again, and warning, already enabled SSH. And so that's cool. It actually has SSH enabled in the firewall. And that's one of the commands I probably should have showed you guys. So if we go firewall D, and you can list out all the ports that are open by and press enter. And I'll list everything that's the port on the system. We got cockpit, we got DHCP version 6 client, and then SSH. So those ports are open as far as services go. And this is the interface that we're working with as well. But everything else is blocked. So if you try to hit any of the ports on this system, every port on there is blocked. And that's cool that they added the services when you enable the firewall by default, because I haven't made any changes to the system. This is just a fresh install, and I just enabled the firewall and it automatically has those services added. So that's cool. Now let's talk about network protection. And let me go down and clear right fast, but I want to show you guys fail to ban. This is brute force protection at its best. And you can install this on Ubuntu, you can install this on Rails-based distros. It's pretty much across all distros you can install fail to ban. And what it will do is monitor authentication logs. And if someone is just constantly trying to brute force a particular service, then it'll block that IP. I recommend you guys get that installed on whatever server you're running, especially if it's in the cloud, because as soon as you put up a Linux system, I'm telling you, the hackers out there, they'll see it and start trying to brute force it because they're looking for you to leave default passwords and all that stuff on the server so they can take over your server and do whatever they want with it. So it's best to put fail to ban on the system. That way it blocks those IP addresses. And then also turn off your root account. It's a couple things that you can do to block people from actually brute forcing your system. But the base thing is fail to ban. So let me show you guys how to install it at least. So sudo DNF install, and then fail to with the number 2 and BAN. And we can put -y there, and this will install it on your system. It'll resolve it and install it on your system. And I won't go through fully configuring it, but I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about the file system. Most of your applications or services that you install, the configuration files are stored under the etc directory. So let me actually go up in there right fast, and then let's go to etc, and then you should find a fail to ban directory now. So let's ls that directory so you guys can see, but there is a configuration file for fail to ban right here. So fail to ban.conf, and then there's a jail config as well. So let me nano that actual file, or open it up in our text editor. Let's go fail to ban.conf and press enter. And this is the default configuration file. And you want to use sudo when you're opening this up. That's why I had the red on it. But you can go through and modify all the changes that you want in here. I recommend you check out one of my other videos on my channel that breaks down how to make changes in here and try to get it set up. And then also within the jails, you want to look at the jails file as well, because they have separated some of this stuff. It used to all be in one configuration file, but the configuration file got so huge that they started separating it. That's why you had a jail.config. And this is where you go in and actually make your changes. You can add ban times. You can enable it for SSHD. So for anyone that's trying to connect to the server using SSH, it'll ban it, and you can specify how long you want it to be banned and all that good stuff in here. Max retries before it bans. The ban time, you could lengthen that out. You can make it indefinite if you want to. And that way, who's ever trying to brute force your system, they'll have to keep getting IP addresses in order to try to, it'll just basically slow them down when trying to brute force your system. And it might get to the point where they give up. And that's what you want. That's what this thing is for. So let's go and close out of that. Just wanted to at least show you guys how to get it installed, and check out some of my documentation on how to configure it. And there's plenty of documentation out there on how to configure fail to ban, but that is a good tool to help you. Now on Rails-based systems, it's one other thing I want to show you guys. Let's clear again. Let's go on and clear the screen. And SE Linux, it basically stands for Security Enhanced Linux. And it's a kernel level security mechanism that enforces access control and policies. And it's built to lock down processes, users, and services beyond your traditional permissions. And so let me walk through a few examples. There's a couple commands that you want to pay attention to. So SE status, you can check out the status of our security posture on our system. So let's go and press enter. As you can see, the status is enabled. Here's the mount point, the root directory, the loaded policy name, so it's targeted. And the current mode is enforcing. Policy MLS status is enabled. Policy deny unknown status allowed. And there's documentation on all of this that you can check out. And of course, you can go to the man page for SE status, and that way it'll give you information about the stuff that's being shown in there. So you can check that out as well. Now, if you want to see the full configuration for it, let me show you guys that. You use the cat command, but SE Linux is stored under our etc directory. So if you type SE and then Linux and then the config and press enter, it'll cat out the full config of what's going on with SE Linux on your system. So you can check that out as well. Now, there are two types of modes. There's the permissive mode, which kind of logs violations, but doesn't block anything. But there's also the enforcing mode, which we're currently in. So in order to change those modes, there's another command I want to show you guys, and that is you have to use sudo for this. So sudo set enforce, it's basically a number. So 0 is permissive mode, press enter, type in our sudo password, and that'll change our posture. And so if we check our status again, boom, you'll see that it's in permissive mode. And then let's say you want to change it back to the enforcing mode. You can run the same command, but type a 1 there, and that'll put it in the enforcing mode. And let's run it again, the status, and you'll see it's back in enforcing. So I want to at least show you guys that. And now another way to do it, and this is a permanent way of actually doing it, because doing it here, once you reboot, it'll change it back to the default that's in the configuration file. So you have to modify that configuration file that I showed you guys under the etc directory. So instead of catting that out, let's go and type nano. We have to do sudo and then nano and open up that configuration file. And if we scroll down and look for the line that says SE Linux, you have to change this to permissive. So you can easily just back this off and type permissive, and then you want to save this and reboot in order for it to start using that permanently on your system. Now, I'm not going to save it because it doesn't matter, because I'm going to leave it on enforcing, but that's how you permanently change it. All right, now logging in with passwords is risky, especially if you're working with a cloud server that has full access to the internet. So what you want to do is use SSH keys instead when you're connected to it. And so there's an application, it's a client, it's called SSH client, that you use in order to connect to those servers. And the way to create a key is to run SSH. It's a tool that's added with the SSH application when you install it on the system, called SSH keygen. And this will create you a public and private key. And then you can add that public key to the remote server that you want to log into. And that way, each time you log into the server, it'll authenticate using that SSH key. And then you can also turn off password authentication, which I recommend. And that's part of one of the things you want to set up as far as securing your Linux server. Now, let me quickly show you guys how to do this right fast. And it's super simple. It won't take too long, but all you have to do is type SSH keygen and press enter. And it'll walk you through. It'll create your files. It'll ask you if you want to save it in a different location. We're going to save it under that .ssh directory. That's why that directory is a hidden directory in your home directory. So let's go down and press enter there. It'll save it in that directory. And then right here, you can put a passphrase on your private key, but it's inconvenient. It's beneficial. It's more secure if you add a passphrase to it, because anytime you want to use that key, you have to type in a password. And some jobs may require you to have passphrases on your SSH keys. But if you're just in your lab, you don't have to set a passphrase, because you're going to have to unlock your private key each time you try to log into a server, which is almost like the password authentication. But it's not, because the password is only unlocking the key locally. So it's nothing going over the internet. But let's only press enter there, because I'm not going to put in a passphrase because it'll ask me multiple times. And the default, it'll use RSA 3072. As you can see, this is just some information about it. This is the key fingerprint. So you got SHA-256 and then this random number right here, but it's associated with this system. So Josh at Rocky 9. So let's check our SSH directory under our home directory. And like I told you, it's a hidden file. So you put the period SSH. And what we want to do is just look under this directory, and you'll see your public and private key. Your public will have pub on the end of it, and this is your private key. So both of those are stored here. And what we want to do is put this on the remote server that we want to connect to. And so first off, before we copy it up there, I want to show you guys how to actually connect to a server via SSH. And so let's clear right fast, but let's run SSH. And then you want to specify your user account and then the IP address of the actual server. Now I have a Ubuntu server running on my system. So if you got one in the cloud or something like that, you can definitely log into it the exact same way by typing in your user account on that server, as well as the IP address of that server, and then connect to it. So all you have to do is press enter. And the first time you log into the server, it's going to add a fingerprint. So you have to type yes here and press enter, and this will allow you to connect to that server. And then you have to type in your password on that server. Now this could be different. So just remember, This is not your local password unless you have it the same on that other server. If you have it the same on that other server, then just type in the same password and you can log in. And so that's how you log in using a password. So as you can see, I'm connected to Ubuntu 24.04 from my Rocky system. Now, let me go down and exit out of this server. But let's go down and copy over our public key. You seen the process now that I have to type in my password and all that stuff. Let me show you guys the difference once we add our public key. And it's a command. It's called SSH-copy-ID. And then what you want to do is specify that actual server that we want to copy it to. So Josh at 10.10.0.154 and press enter. And this will copy that key over there. And I'll just read it to you right here. It says, attempting to log in with new key to filter out any that are already installed. And then it also says one key remains to be installed. If you're prompted now, it is to install the new key. So just showing you guys the process, but if you type in your password on that server, this will add that key to the server. As you can see, it didn't log in. It just added that key to the actual server and it gives you some output here. So number of keys added. Now try logging into the server using SSH, Josh, and then that IP address. So same way we logged in before. Let's try it again and let's press enter. And as you can see, it didn't ask me for a password or anything. It authenticated with the public and private key. So this will allow you to make SSH configurations on a server to block password authentication and force people to only be able to log in using a public key. Now, go down and practice all those commands I went through, like the IPA, try to set a different host name and check out the ping dig command, install traceroute if you need to test your connection. Go through and play around with the firewall if you want to. Set up your SSH key so you can log in between two different virtual machines. If you're feeling bold, go on and install and try to configure fail to ban for some real world security practice. But networking and security, it goes hand in hand. And you just learn how to check your connections, secure your ports, and protect against brute force attacks. And these are tools that keep your system online and safe. And in the next video, we'll start getting into scripting and automation, which is super cool. And I'm going to have fun in this part. So let's get to it. Now let's get into one of the core topics of Linux administration, and that's package management. This is how we install, update, and remove software on a Linux system. And if you've used a app store on your phone, it's a similar concept, just way more powerful under the hood. Now, let me break this down. Different Linux distributions use different package managers. Debian-based systems like Ubuntu use apt. Red Hat-based systems like Red Hat or CentOS use DNF or the older Yum package manager. Then you got Zipper on SUSE and also Pacman on Arch. And then we also have Snap or Flatpaks for universal packages. And in this video, I wanted to focus mostly on apt and DNF, since those are the most commonly used in enterprise and also on the cert exam. Now, I'm still connected to that Ubuntu server, and to install a package using apt, you just simply run sudo apt install and then the package name. So it could be anything from like htop. So I'll go down and run it right fast so you guys can see that this will go through and find that package and install it. But as you can see, htop is already installed on that Ubuntu server. And I know this is hard to read, but you have to go through and look at what's being said. Like for instance, htop is already at the newest version. Htop set to manually install. So that only happened because htop is already on the system. Now with DNF, it's pretty much the same thing. And what I'm gonna do is open up another terminal and we're gonna make this one huge as well so you guys can see it. And so as you know, this desktop environment, this is Rocky Linux. So it uses DNF because it's rail-based, or you can also use Yum, but it's the same concept. All you have to do is use the different package manager. So sudo DNF and then install, and let's do htop as well over here. Type in our sudo password, press enter, and it'll go through and check. And as you can see, it's already installed. And you see how they work a little bit differently as far as the output that's sent out, because these packages are built totally different. So DNF and then apt on Ubuntu. And just to break it down a little further, both commands, what they do is they check online software repositories and download the package. And it also grabs its dependencies and install everything cleanly. Now let's talk about updating and upgrading. To keep your system up to date, it's a different command to actually do that. For Ubuntu-based systems or Debian-based systems, you need to run updates. And this is something you need to do before installing any new software, you need to refresh the package list. And so let me show you guys that being ran. So let's run sudo apt updates and press enter. And I'll go through, like I said, and refresh that package list. And also if there are any updates for the system within those repositories, it'll let you know. And then it'll advise you can upgrade them. As you can see, that's what happened here. It says 8 packages can be upgraded. Now, it doesn't update anything. It just basically compares the deltas between the repository and what you have on your system based on what's installed. So if HTOP that you have installed locally is a different version from the one that's in the repository, or the most up-to-date version in the repository, then it'll mark it as it needs to be upgraded. And in order to upgrade, all you have to do is type sudo apt upgrade and press enter, and this will check those packages and upgrade them on your system. And you have to type yes. Do you want to continue? Because it'll let you know how much space it's going to take up. Once that's installed, it tells you what's all going to be installed. So 7 upgrades, 7 newly installed, 0 to be removed, and 1 not upgraded. So there is 1 that's not going to be upgraded. So out of those total of 8 packages. So just go on, press enter, boom, and it'll go through and run those updates on those packages that have updates. And so it'll give you results. It'll go through, install, and then give you results, basically saying that those packages have been upgraded. You can check through and read through this, but it gives you all the output as it's going through the process of updating those packages. Now, one thing on Red Hat based systems, it combines both of those commands together, the updates and the upgrade, and it puts it all into one command. What it'll do is it'll refresh and then upgrade. And let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So all you have to do is type sudo dnf and then updates. If you run update, this will update and upgrade those packages on your system. So let's go on, press enter, type in our sudo password, and this will check if there are updates and then present them to you. And you type Y for yes, because it's going to let you know how much more space it's going to take up on your system. Just apt and press enter, and it'll upgrade that package for you. And if you look at DNF, it's a little bit more cleaner than Ubuntu. I like the way it looks. You can easily see what's going on a little bit better. This is the packages that are being upgraded. And as you can see, it gives you the architecture, the version, repository, and the size. And it organizes it a whole lot better. And then you can see the full transaction right here, which you can see all that information over here. It's just a little bit more jumbled up when it comes to apt, the way it's released. And I wish they would update that, but that's what we got with apt. And there are some tools you can add to Ubuntu based systems to clean it up a little better. But I recommend you run it the normal way, because when you're learning, you want to see how it'll look, especially if you go to an organization. They're not going to have those third-party tools installed on there. It's just going to be a base system without extra third-party tools, most likely. Now, just to reinforce this, keeping your system updated is key for security and stability. This is a big deal in production environments. Now, let's say you need to uninstall something. With apt, basically, it's apt remove and then the package name. So let's run that for HTOP. So sudo remove HTOP. Let's go and remove it from the system and put Y for yes. And this will go through the process of removing that package from your system, so you won't be able to use it anymore. Now, if you want to remove the package and its configuration files, there is a purge command that you can run. And what it's going to do is error out right now because we already removed it. But let's say it has some configuration files and all that good stuff under etc directory, which I showed you guys. That's where all our configuration files are stored. Then that purge command will go down and remove those as well and keep the system clean. Now, just show you guys how to remove packages on a rail-based system. All you have to do is type sudo dnf and then remove and then the package name. So let's remove HTOP again from the system, and you can go through and see what it's removing. That's why I say I like the way DNF actually shows the information that it's going to do. So let's type Y for yes, and now the package has been removed as well as its dependency. Now I want you guys to be very careful when removing packages, because if you remove a critical package, you can mess up the system. And always double check before hitting enter when you're removing packages. When you install a package, you're often installing other packages it relies on. And that's what I mean by dependencies. I keep saying dependencies, but I haven't really explained it. There are packages that needed to run a different piece of software. For instance, this HW lock is a dependency of HTOP. So in order for it to run properly, it needs this package as well. in order to run the program properly. Package managers handle this automatically, but when removing software, it will leave behind unused dependencies in most cases. A couple other commands I can show you guys. I showed you the purge that'll remove configuration files, but there's also the auto remove. So we type sudo apt auto remove. This will go through and look for dependencies that are not needed on the system anymore or no longer needed. Like for instance, the following package was automatically installed and is no longer required. That's one of those packages. And it tells you right here with the app package manager that you can run this command to remove it. And so that's just an unused package. It's not dependent on anything, or no other application is dependent on it. So you can type sudo apt auto remove, and that will remove that actual package and save the space on your system. And that's one of the reasons you want to run it, to get rid of packages that are not needed, that may be taking up space. Because once you install something, it's cached on the system. That way you can easily roll back to an older version of that package if need be. Let's say it breaks something. And so with that being said, this will free up space on the system. And the same thing with Rails systems. It's the exact same command. Just use DNF and then auto remove, and this will remove dependencies that are not needed. And let me go down and type it in properly. But auto remove, press enter to go through and check and see if there are any dependencies and remove them from your system. Now, repositories are servers that hold collections of packages, and your system connects to those to install and update software. And you could check or edit your repository list by going into a couple configuration files, and I'll show the differences to you based on the operating system. Like for instance, Ubuntu has a sources list, and this is stored under etc. So if we run sudo cat and then under etc, there is a apt location for the app package manager. And then let me hit tab twice so you guys can see what's in here. But you have your configuration files, authentication files, preferences, sources, and this is what we're looking for, our sources list. And you also have a couple of the folders in here like that handle GPT keys, your key ring, and all that stuff. So let's cut out this sources list right fast so you guys can see the repositories. And yeah, I forgot that you want to move the sources list under sources list D. So let's go into there right fast and show you guys what I'm talking about. That D, and then let me tab it out so we can see, yeah, Ubuntu sources, boom. And so this is what your sources list looks like for Ubuntu. It's basically in a particular format. So the type is deb, which is a deb package or a Debian package, the URL to the server where they host all those packages, and then the suites, components, and then the key ring that lets you know you're getting it from the proper source. And same thing down here, they have it separated as far as security updates. So it's a different repository, but it checks both of those repositories for packages on your system that are out of date, and then update them when you run the upgrade command. Now, let me show you guys on Rocky right fast, or rail base, and let me highlight that so it doesn't become distracting. And let's run sudo cat and then under etc, and there is a yum directory and that repo, and I had to tab it out so I can remember exactly what it's called. And let's tab that out as well so we can see what's in there. And you'll see the EPEL repo, you got your Rocky add-ons repo, you got the devil repo, your extra repo, and then Rocky repo right there. But I'll just check out the EPEL repo. So let's go enterprise and press enter, and let's check out what's in there right fast. And as you can see, it's in the same type of format. It's a little bit different, obviously, but it's in a similar format. You got your link to the actual repository that stores all the packages, and it's all breaking out with the GPT key and all that good stuff. And I just mainly wanted to show you guys that. So let's go down and clear, and we can go over here and clear as well. Now, let me show you guys how to search and verify packages. You can use apt search in order to search for packages. And let's look at that same package of htop. So this is how you run it right fast. So if you know what the name of the package is, you can search for it, and this will go through and find that package for you. Now, it is a little broad. It'll pull in a whole bunch of packages that are similar. So sometimes you have to look through it and see what's all there. And with htop, there are other packages that do the same thing or accomplish the same thing that was created by other people using different programming languages and all that stuff. So like, for instance, this is bashtop. This is bpytop. So that uses Python, btop, and then htop. And all those tools pretty much do the exact same thing. They just show things a little bit differently within the command line. Now, let me show you guys how to search within DNF. And it's the exact same thing. All you have to do is type DNF search, and you don't have to type sudo to search for packages, just so you guys know, and just search whatever package you want to look for. And we're going to look for htop, and what it's going to do is search and see if it can find that package on our system. And one thing about the search on DNF, it'll look for that exact package. You'll find just that exactly matched package for htop. It won't show all the other ones. If they are there in the repository, it'll search for the exact match. And so let's go down and install htop again, but let's type sudo apt install, and let's run htop again over here on Ubuntu, get that installed. And then let's also do the exact same thing over here. So DNF and then install htop and get that set up on our system as well. And the reason I want to go down and get it installed, because I want to show you guys another command that'll show you information about a package. So let's run apt show and then htop, and this will give you more details on the actual package. You can check that out. I didn't have to install it, but I was going to show you guys another command after that, but you can look at all the details of that package. Htop, the maintainers, the origin, any bugs that are out there. You can see all the details about a particular package. Just type it in. And the same thing can be done over here on Railbase. And all you have to do is type DNF info and then the package name. It's a little bit different. So let's press enter, and it'll give you the information about that package right there. And you can see things like the name, the version, the release, the architecture, pretty much all that good stuff. Now, let's say you want to verify an install. Let's say someone else installed a package and you want to just verify it or whatever. You can dpackage-l and Ubuntu-based systems, and dpackage is basically dpkg and then -l, and press enter, and it'll give you all the packages that are installed on the system, and this will allow you to verify what's installed on the system. And I didn't put a package name in there, so that's why it's showing everything. And you can type in htop and that'll show just that package that you're looking for. Just wanted you to be able to see that you can look at everything on the system versus just pulling up a single package by running that specific package next to it. Now, there's another command over on Rocket-based systems. You can run rpm-qa, and you can type the package in there, press enter. They'll go through and find that package for you and give you the version and all that stuff that's on there. And you can run the same thing, and they'll show you every package on the system the exact same way on Ubuntu-based system or Debian-based systems. So it's all depending on the distro that you're using and the package manager that you're using. Now, let me clear right fast because I want to show you guys some built-in utilities that help you out as far as finding out the version of a package. You can type which and then htop, press enter, and it'll tell you the location of the package, the binary file. As you can see, it's on the user bin, htop. Same thing over here. You can run the which command, both sides, and this will give you the information about that application. And I misspoke when I said version. It just basically shows you where the binary is and where this package is located on your system once it's installed. But in order to get the version, most packages, you can type htop and then -version and press enter, and that'll give you the version name. And I forgot for this, you have to put -- in order to type the full word out. And so let's put that in there right fast. So it's --version. There we go. So htop -version, that'll pull it up. Same thing over here. You can run htop -version, should be the same. And yeah, there we go. So you have that version of htop installed on the system. Now, go ahead and install a couple packages on your system. Practice. You can install nano or reinstall nano. By default, it's on Ubuntu, but reinstall nano. And also try removing some of these packages, but just make sure you know what you're removing. Don't remove anything you're unfamiliar with the package name and what it actually does for the system. And then also run those update commands or upgrade commands, the auto remove commands, and get familiar with it, because that's one thing you'll be doing in a job, and that's system maintenance. That falls all under system maintenance. I recommend you search for packages as well, like packages you haven't used before, like Nginx or Apache or something to that effect. And you can also check for the information behind the package, like what version, the maintainer information, and all that good stuff. Like I stated in the beginning, package management is one of those must-have skills for any Linux administrator. And it's how you keep your system clean, secure, and functioning properly. In the next video, we'll take what you've learned and use it to automate tasks and build shell scripts so you can get a little bit of automation under your belt. So let's get to it. All right, so let's take everything we've learned so far and start automating it. Shell scripting is the power up move in Linux. It lets you string together commands into reusable scripts that can save time, eliminate repetition, and reduce errors. And so this is real world system admin and DevOps stuff, and it's absolutely on the exam. Now, first off, what is a shell script? A shell script is just a plain text file with a list of commands, and when you run it, the system executes those commands line by line. And they typically start with a shebang. And let's go on and start creating one right fast, and we'll use our text editor Nano just to show you guys how to do it. So test script, I'll just name it test and press enter. And let's start off with the shebang. And the shebang is the # and then the exclamation point. And then you want to specify the shell that we're using, and we're using bash. So let's put / and then bin / bash. And so this basically tells the system which shell to use while running these commands. And from there, you can write your commands just like you would type them manually in a terminal. And let's start off by doing something a little simple. We'll just use the echo command. So echo, and then with the echo command, you have to put what you want it to say in quotes. And so let's go, hey, keep it techie family. And let's go on and save this right fast. So you guys remember how to use the nano command, just Control S and then Control X, and that'll save and close the actual file for us. Now, one thing you have to do is make this actual shell script executable, because files are not executable by default in Linux. It's a security measure. So in order to make it executable, you have to use a command called chmod. You type chmod, the plus symbol, and then X, and then you specify that actual script and press enter, and that'll change it to executable. And if we ls this directory right fast, you guys will see that it changes the color of it. It originally most likely looked like this, just white, because that's what a text file kind of looks like. But when something is executable, at least on Ubuntu based systems, it'll do this. It'll change the color of the actual file. That's if this package is installed that was the terminal in different colors and all that good stuff. Now let's go down and clear right fast, because I want to execute the files. And so the way you execute a script is by putting period, / and then the script name. So let's just type T and tab it out, press enter, and I'll actually run our script for us. And as you can see, it echoes out exactly what we put to the script. So that's super cool, right? Now, the next thing I wanted to show you guys is how to use variables. And you can also add inputs as well from the terminal. So let's go back into our file. Let's start off with a variable. So let's set a variable. Now, you can give it whatever type of name you want. So I'm going to just use name. And then we put the =, and then you need to put double quotes for whatever you're assigning to that variable. And if you've coded before, you understand how this works. It's just the syntax is a little bit different depending on what programming language you're using. So this will assign this variable the text of Josh. And so we can use that later in the script. So let's go back to our echo command and add another sentence. So let's say this is the variable, which all you have to do is put a $, and then the variable name. So it's just a name, and then you can finish out your sentence however you want to, but you can place that variable anywhere within the script and it'll use Josh as long as it's declared at the top of the script, because these types of scripts execute from top down, just so you guys understand that. Now let's go on and save this right fast and run the script again. So we'll see exactly what happens. So as you can see, it says, hi, KeepItTechie family, this is Josh, and I use that variable information. Now let me show you guys how to do a input. You can actually use a command called read. So let me show you guys that right fast. And you have to have a variable name, so to speak, but you want to read it from the terminal. So just type read and then the name of the variable that you want to name it. So name, and then also we're calling that variable down here. So once it reads what the variable is for name, it'll place it into the script. So this is just a way to gather inputs from the actual user or the person that's running the script. Let's press Control X and save it right fast. And then let's go on and run our script again. And so what it's doing is waiting for my input. And so let's do a different name. So let's go John and press enter. And then boom, you'll see that it updates that variable based on your input that you put in the terminal. And just so you know, variables are key to writing like dynamic scripts that respond to different situations. So you definitely want to understand how to do that. All right, so now let me show you guys how to use conditions or logic that we can add to these scripts. And you can do that by using the if statement. Just like any other programming language, you can use if statements in Bash, and I'll show you guys how to do it right fast. Let's go into our script again. And what I'm gonna do is clear out all of that so I can write a if statement. So the way you do it is you start off with if, and then I'll use like a internal variable. And one thing I like to do is put everything or write everything out. And I know I told you guys this earlier, but I'll write out everything and then add my conditions in the middle of the brackets. But you have to put brackets in there and then a semicolon. And then I know this first line, it'll have to have then at the end of it. So let's go on and type our conditions in there. And what I'll do is use some internal variables. Like I said, I'll use the user variable, which this is built in to the system. And let's put an equal sign, and then let's specify what we want that condition to be. So if user variable is root, then I want it to, let's say, echo, and let's just put something simple in here, u or roots. And then let's put an else in there. So else and press enter, and then let's echo, and then you or not root. And then in order to close out our if statement, we have to put if backwards. So fi, and that is our if then statement. So let's go ahead and save it right fast and run it and see what happens. So let's run that script. And it looks like we ran into a little problem. It says command not found, but it did run the script, you are not root. So it actually worked, because I know for sure I'm Josh, which is what it found, and then you are not root. Let me go down and see if I can fix that right fast, because I believe I see what the problem is. I should have put a space in here or extra space. Let me nano that, because I want you guys to at least see it properly. Yeah, and you're supposed to put spaces in here. I forgot about that between the brackets, because it's looking at, this is part of a command, I believe. It's putting all that together. So let's go on and save it. I want to at least show you guys the right way of writing it. So let's go on and close this. Yes, save, and then let's run it again. And yeah, there we go. So no syntax errors, nothing like that. And as you can see, we all make mistakes. I want you guys to make mistakes as well. So I'm gonna leave this in the video so you guys can see that you can easily make mistakes, but all you have to do is pay attention to what's put out there, and it'll explain what you messed up on. And I could tell by this space right here, it looks like this is one command. That's the way it's looking at it. But anyway, that fixed it. Now let me show you guys a loop right fast. So let's go back into our text file. And what I'm gonna do is clean out some of this, and let's go down and create a loop. And so the way you start it off is for, and I'm gonna create a variable. Let's call it file, and then in, and then what I want to search for is text files within our home directory. So I'm gonna put a wildcard in there, and then .text, because that's the type of file that I want to look for. And then let's put a semicolon at the end, and then do, and press enter. And then for each one of these, I want to echo each text file, and let's put 2 double quotes, and then let's just put something like processing. And like I said, this is just an example. It's not really going to do anything. I'm gonna use that variable though. For a file, I wanted to echo that is processing the file. And I know this kind of doesn't make sense, but you'll see what I'm doing once we run the script. So let's go down and save it right fast. That's a simple loop. And what it's going to do is look for all the text files, and it'll find them and process them, which is not really processing them. And let me ls this directory right fast so we can see. Yeah. Oh, that's why it didn't find any, because I forgot this system doesn't have any text files on there. So let's create some files right fast. I forgot we're on that Ubuntu server. So let's go touch test1 txt, and then test2.txt, and then test3.txt, and press enter. They'll touch and create all those files. So if we ls our directory, we got 3 text files. Now let's run our script again so we could see it in action. I forgot this server doesn't have any text files on it. So let's check our script one more time. And yeah, that should be correct. And that, and let's run our script. Let's go up, boom, and there you go. So it looped through and found all these files and said it was processing. So you can do the same thing. Let's say you want to write something or add something to all the text files in there. Then you can echo and redirect to the actual file name, and it'll write whatever text you want to all of those files. And so this kind of loop is common when automating repetitive tasks like log rotations, backups, and system checks. Now, I just want to point out that Nano is perfect for beginners. So just open up your scripts and all that stuff using Nano, and you can make your changes, save them, and run them. But if you're using something like Vi or Vim, remember how to actually use it. And there are plenty of cheat sheets out there, and I'll probably create something of my own in order to manage those scripts. But Nano is fine for right now for everyday use, but you do want to familiarize yourself with all of those text editors, because you may get onto a system and it does not have Nano and it does not have Vim. It may only have Vi on it. And so you need to understand how to exit out. I know people always have issues exiting out of Vim, or it's like a running joke around the Linux community. How do I get out of Vim? Or how do I insert text in Vim or Vi? It's a little bit different of a text editor, but they work great. But as a beginner, I recommend you just stick with Nano, at least for right now, and then familiarize yourself with Vi and Vim as well. Now, let's say that script we just created that does the loop, update some files with, let's say, some logs or something, or some times that you're tracking for whatever it is. And let's say you want to run that script daily. So there's an application or utility on your Linux system called cron, and you can schedule your script to run using cron at a particular time. And so let me give you guys an example of how to actually access it. So in order to edit cron, there's a command called cron tab, and then you have to put an option in there for -E for edit. So cron tab and then -E to edit your cron tab. And since it's my first time opening up cron tab, it's going to ask you what you want to use as far as a text editor. I recommend you use one, which is a default, and it's the easiest, but you can use Vim as well as ED. But we're going to press enter. And so from now on, it'll use Nano every time you run cron tab E. Now, let me show you guys, they have some information in here that shows you how to set up a cron job. So for instance, this is an example. So let's say you want to create a backup of something, and then also move that archive to a specific location. And that's how you actually set it up. And I know it's a little bit confusing, but if you check up here at the top, this kind of defines the times. All the information is there. So to define the times, you can provide concrete values for minutes, hour, day, month, day of month, and then the month, and then the day of the week. And you can use the store in those fields for any. So that's a clear breakdown of how it actually works. So for instance, this is the minute, this is the hour, this is the day of the month, this is the month, and this is the day of the week. And so long as you remember that, it's not that difficult. And then you specify what you want done. Like for instance, it's just running the tor command, and it's using a couple different options, and it's specifying the archive and then where you want it outputted to. So it's just a simple way of actually doing it right fast. All right. And so in order to add a cron job, you just have to go down to the bottom of the file and add your job within the same format. Let me show you guys this right fast. And if you want to use the example, you can grab the example. But what I'm going to do is just type it all in just to show you guys the format. So let's type 0 because we don't care about the minutes, and let's put a space and then 5 for, I want it to run at 5 a.m. And actually, let's just change it up. Let's put 7 a.m. That's 7. And then let's put store. I don't care about the day of the month. I don't care about the month, and I don't care about the days of the week. I want it to run at 7 a.m. every single day. And then what do I want it to do? So you want to specify the command. So all you have to do simply, if you have a script set up, you can go under your home directory. You can specify that script under your home directory. So you can go home/Josh, and then what was it? Test script Shaw. And so every day at 7 a.m., it will call this script and run it on our system. And so let's go down and close this right fast. All you have to do is save, Control S, and then Control X, and that'll close it out for you. And so that is scheduled for you. Now, let me show you guys how to list the commands right fast. So you can use cron tab and then -L, press enter. Now list out what you have in that file without editing it. And that's our only script that we have running, or something scheduled that we have running in the file. Now, there is a way to remove them all. I'm not going to run it, but you can run cron tab -R, and this will remove any cron tab jobs that are created by the current user, meaning that the one that I created will be removed. But I'm not going to do it. That's how you get rid of them if you want to. Or you can go in and just edit that file and remove this line, and that'll get rid of that cron job. And so that's a basic example of using cron. And it's definitely worth mastering for scheduling automation. Now is practice time. So go through and try to write you a simple script, echo out some system information or clean up logs or something like that. Make it executable and test it out and schedule it in cron. Like I said a little earlier, go down and use Nano because it's a little bit easier. But if you want to test your skills, go down and open up Vim or open up the file in Vim and get a little hands-on practice using that text editor. And this will definitely help you for the exam. So shell scripting turns you into a Linux power user. It's how you scale your skills and handle real-world problems in a fast and efficient way. And this will definitely make you look like a professional when you're on the Linux operating system. Now, one other thing I wanted to point out, that I do have a bunch of scripts on my GitHub that I'll have linked down in the description of this video as well. It's called my Linux Arsenal. And let's type in GitHub right fast so I get show it to you guys. And let's search for my account, but KeepItTechie, and let's go up in here right fast and we can see the repositories that I have for my accounts. And let's go back to the main repository right fast so you guys can see Linux Server Arsenal. And so I have a bunch of scripts in here, shell scripts. So you can go through and download these and play around with them on your system. Like I said, I have a link down in the description of the video so you guys can check it out. They basically go through and install and configure certain applications on systems. So you definitely want to check this out. And so next we'll be diving into virtualization and containers. So let's go down and get to it. All right, so let's talk about how Linux fits into the world of virtualization and cloud computing. This is a major piece of modern IT, and it's showing up more and more in the Linux Plus exam. We're living in a hybrid world now. On-prem, virtualization, and cloud all working together. So understanding how Linux interacts with these environments is key to stay relevant in the field. Now, first off, what is virtualization? Virtualization lets you run multiple operating systems on a single physical machine by using what they call a hypervisor. Now, you can create virtual machines that are isolated from each other, but share the same hardware. And this is how developers, system admins, and cloud providers manage workloads efficiently and cost effectively. Now, there are two main types of hypervisors. There's a type 1 and a type 2. Now, type 1 runs directly on the hardware, like VMware, ESX, Hyper-V, or KVM. These are common in data centers. And type 2 runs on top of another OS like VirtualBox, VMware, Workstation, and those are great for testing or learning on your local machine. For this course, we use type 2 since it's easier to set up on your laptop or desktop. And we covered how to set that up by installing VirtualBox in the beginning of the course. But I just wanted to give you a reference of a type 2 hypervisor. Now, you can spin up Linux virtual machines using VirtualBox, VMware, and tools like KVM or Virt Manager. And each VM can run its own Linux distro, giving you a safe lab to test scripts, services, and configs. And you'll also learn to allocate resources like CPU, memory, and disk based on workloads needed. And this is similar to what you will see in the real world as a sysadmin. Now, containers are slightly different. They are a lightweight alternative to virtual machines. They share the same S kernel, but run isolated applications. Now, Docker is the most popular container platform. And with a single command, you can pull down an image and run a containerized application. Now, containers start fast, they use less RAM, and are perfect for microservices or deploying code at scale. And once Docker is installed, you can run Docker run hello to verify that it's working. You can search for images on Docker Hub, like Nginx, Ubuntu, or even full dev stacks. You can also run containers in a detached mode with -D. And you can also map ports with -P and use volumes for persistent storage. And Docker is a must-know skill in modern Linux workflows. Now let's zoom out a bit. Cloud computing is just virtualization on someone else's computer. Platforms like AWS, Azure, GCP let you spin up Linux servers in minutes. And you'll manage virtual machines, configure the networking, automate deployment, and integrate with tools like Terraform or Ansible. And Linux is the backbone of cloud infrastructure. Now, CompTIA wants you to understand key virtualization concepts, types of hypervisors, basic virtual machine management, and container basics. But you don't need to master, let's say, AWS today, but you should know how to deploy SSH into it and secure a Linux VM in a cloud environment. So think of it as everything you've already learned in a virtual or cloud context. Now it's time for you to test that out. Go down and create you a new VM in VirtualBox or KVM. Install a different Linux distro. Download the ISO and set up another virtual machine in VirtualBox and play around with it and see how commands differ in those different distributions. And then also play around with Docker by running, let's say, the Nginx or Alpine container, and try creating your own Docker file to package a custom app. And then also the bonus points. If you can spin up a cloud VM using a free tier provider like AWS, GCP, or Linode, then you're on point. You now understand how Linux fits into the bigger world of virtualization and cloud. And these are high demand areas. And now you've got the foundation to grow into them. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Yo, so you did it. You just finished the entire Linux Plus certification course, and that's no small feat. Give yourself a round of applause because most people don't even make it this far. But you stayed committed, you put in that work, you leveled up your skills. So what's next? Here's how I recommend you move forward. Start reviewing and practicing. Make sure you go through the terminal examples. Try breaking stuff on purpose. Set up a small lab because repetition builds confidence. Also, make sure you take a few practice exams. I got some links in the description where you can test your knowledge with free and paid quizzes. And these will help you get used to the CompTIA format of questioning. Also, focus on performance-based questions. These are hands-on tasks you'll see in the real exam. And if you've done the labs and examples in this course, you're already ahead of the game. Make sure you also join the KeepItTechie community. So whether it's on Discord, which I have the link down in the description of the video, or the YouTube comments, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Also connect with others on the same journey. We all help each other out here. And lastly, don't stop now. Use this Linux Plus cert as your launchpad. After this, you can explore cloud, cybersecurity, scripting, or even build your own Linux projects. And hey, if you found value in this course, help someone else by sharing it. Tag me, shout me out, and let's continue spreading knowledge to everybody that needs it. And again, I'm proud of you. I mean that. Keep going, keep growing, and as always, keep it techie. Yo, what's up, y'all? Listen, if you've been sitting there thinking about making a move, let me tell you, tech is where it's at. I don't care where you're coming from, whether you've got a degree, a GED, or just pure hustle. There's room for you in this game. You see, tech is more than just keyboards and code. It's solving problems, creating opportunities, and building the future. You already have what it takes because tech doesn't care where you start. It cares where you're willing to go. You can teach yourself Linux, learn Python, break into cybersecurity, or even launch your own app. And the resources are out here for free. And yes, you heard me, free. Now, yeah, it's gonna take effort. You'll have to grind, but think about this. The time is gonna pass anyway. So why not invest it in a skill that'll change your life? I mean, tech doesn't just pay the bills, it opens doors to freedom, stability, and generational wealth. So stop doubting yourself, start small, stay consistent, and keep building. Because this isn't just a career, it's a movement. And guess what? You belong here. So let's get it, because the future is yours to build. Keep it techie. Wow.